Chapter 528. If the earth fire layer was several hundred meters thick, Chu Tian wouldn't have the strength to keep going. What made Chu Tian very happy was that when his spirit energy was about to run out, he finally passed through the endless sea of flames. Although he avoided being burnt to a crisp like the thunderbird, he still fell to the ground like a meteor. Hong! A large part of the forest was burned away by the impact, creating a large hole like a meteor. Chu Tian fell in the center of the hole, feeling like his body couldn't move at all. The little fox came out of the ground with an ashen face. It looked a bit sorry, but it wasn't anything serious. It immediately ran in front of Chu Tian and pulled at the immobile Chu Tian. "Where are the dark elves?" The little fox looked around, but it couldn't find the dark elves. It wasn't known if they were burned when they passed through the earth fire or if they were separated from the ground. Chu Tian turned his head with difficulty and looked around. The purgatory world, this was the purgatory world. Perhaps even the most imaginative people of the surface world wouldn't have thought that there would be this kind of incredible space thousands of miles below the continent. The purgatory world didn't have a sky. Therefore, when the purgatory world residents looked up, they could only see a large colorful dome. This was a dome made of different rocks and energy materials. There were all kinds of precious crystal ores that reflected off each other, just like the stars in the night sky of the surface world. If one thought that the underground world was pitch black, that was a big mistake. The purgatory world was not pitch black, rather there was a lot of light. It was similar to the dusk of the surface world. Although it was a bit dim, it was enough to see. Some people would be confused. Where did the light come from? It was impossible for the purgatory world to have a sun. Thinking like this was a big mistake. The purgatory world had a sun. The purgatory world didn't just have one, there were hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of suns. When the purgatory world's creatures looked up at the dome, other than seeing the complex and gorgeous rock ceiling, they could also see large pieces of irregular light. Some were round, some were polygonal, some were long, and some were even moving around. Not bad. The earth fire layer. Chu Tian had just passed through this layer of flames to enter the purgatory world. Actually, there were many similar areas in the purgatory world. It was these things that released large amounts of light, heat, and energy into the purgatory world. It could be imagined what the purgatory world dome was like. There were countless little suns and stars shining together, just like the stars and sun coexisting, making people sigh in amazement. It was different from the sky on the surface, but it had a different kind of wonder. The underground world must be desolate. Of course not. There was light, heat, and energy. After hundreds of millions of years of reproduction, this place had already nurtured an ecosystem that was completely different from the one on the surface, and its complexity was not inferior to the one on the surface. The place where Chu Tian fell was a large forest. Of course. The forests of the purgatory world were different from the forests of the surface world. The plants here were mostly dark underground plants that couldn't appear on the surface. It was hard to find several identical plants in the purgatory world because the creatures here were constantly changing. Even if it was two identical seeds, when they matured, they could become two completely different things. The entire purgatory world was covered in a layer of hazy mist. The ground was covered in crystal bamboo shoots and the flowing water was covered in glowing crystal algae. If it wasn't for the fact that they were close to the dark underground world, they would have thought that they were in a fairy tale world. Chu Tian didn't have time to appreciate the foreign atmosphere of the purgatory world. The little fox did a simple search and couldn't find that dark elf. Forget it, who cares? We're already in the purgatory world, we'll think of a way ourselves. However, my situation is not good, I need to go into a deep sleep to recover my mind. Help me protect me during this period of time. The little fox took out the spiritual type sacred herbs Chu Tian found in the Demon Ant Valley. Chu Tian didn't have any alchemy conditions right now, and since he had the netherworld flame, he might as well eat it and use his body as a furnace to refine it. Although it was a waste, was there any other way? After Chu Tian ate the spiritual-type sacred herbs, he was immediately enveloped in a strong sleepiness. When a person was awake, their mind was very active, which was not good for spiritual recovery. Sleep was a kind of natural protective mechanism, so Chu Tian needed to go into a deep sleep for a while before he could fully recover from his injuries. The little fox called out a few times. "You can't sleep here." Chu Tian was already in a deep sleep. No matter how the little fox pushed, it was like Chu Tian was dead and it was impossible for him to wake up. When the little fox was feeling depressed, its furry ears suddenly stood up. It seemed like it heard a figure and it immediately hid in Chu Tian's clothes. There were some figures that appeared in the forest. These people looked very cautious, they were watching from afar. After watching for a quarter of an hour and making sure there was no movement, several figures slowly flapped their wings as they flew over. "There's a strange being that fell from the subterranean world." These creatures looked very strange. They were obviously intelligent creatures, but they had butterfly-like wings, and their appearances were similar to elves. They had ears, and their skin colors were different. Some were green, some were blue, some were yellow, and some were white. In addition, they had long tails at their caudal vertebrae, and the end was like an arrowhead. This was a standard demon tail. This meant that these beings belonged to the demon race, or at least they were a subspecies of the demon race, a dark race with a demon bloodline. These were butterfly demons. The butterfly demons were a relatively weak dark race and couldn't be considered a large race in the purgatory world. They could only live in the cracks of large races, relying on a stronger race to survive. But the purgatory world was not the surface world. A race that could live here couldn't be completely useless. The butterfly demons were weak in direct attacks, but they excelled in confusion, hypnosis, and poison, which were sometimes very troublesome. The butterfly demons surrounded the hole, pointing at the unconscious Chu Tian. "What is this? A spy sent by the subterranean world? But he doesn't look like the subterranean spirit insects, rather he looks like an elf. Could it be that he can't be a spy if he doesn't look like one? Even the dark elves don't live in the purgatory world. There are also elves living in the subterranean world. I think this person is a subterranean spy, we should just suck his flesh dry." "No, whether he's a subterranean spy or not, we can't easily deal with him. He is a being that fell from above, I think we can sell him for a good price. You guys tie him up and take him away." The butterfly demons were very timid. But Chu Tian clearly didn't have any strength to resist. The butterfly demons were a poor and weak race and the one in front of them was a strange and unknown species. If he was a spy, they could exchange information for value. If he wasn't a spy, this kind of rare species that had never appeared before could be sold to the dark gnome merchants for a large amount of money. Several butterfly demon men and women dragged Chu Tian out. 30 miles away, there were strange-looking ancient trees hanging from the cliff. The ancient trees were covered in something like lingji that had already turned to stone. The butterfly demons lived on the trees growing on the cliff. The entire butterfly demon village only had a few thousand people, it was a small power that couldn't be smaller in the purgatory world. The butterfly demons picked up a creature they had never seen before and it immediately caused a stir in this small village. "I think this is definitely a mixed elf." No, how could it be an elf? The smell of his blood is completely different from the elves, so he is a completely different race from the elves. Then what is he? Who knows, he doesn't have the smell of a demon or spirit insect on him. The butterfly demons excitedly discussed. "Stop arguing." A young-looking female butterfly demon walked out. She was the smartest one in the village and her snow-white skin represented the best butterfly demon bloodline. The butterfly demons placed a lot of importance on bloodlines, therefore when she spoke, most of the butterfly demons closed their mouths. "This isn't the time to discuss this. This fellow is heavily injured and if he dies without treatment, he won't be worth anything." The butterfly demons finally realized this. That's right, he wouldn't be worth anything if he died. The butterfly demons examined this strange being's body, but they found that the other side's injuries weren't as serious as they imagined, making them feel this was very strange. At this time, an older butterfly demon said, "Perhaps his mind or soul is injured, let's examine him." Although the butterfly demons weren't strong, they had a trace of spiritual energy, therefore they could examine his mental state. They wouldn't know if they didn't examine him, but when they did, the butterfly demons were shocked. His mental wound is very large. There aren't many beings that can endure this kind of bed. It's a miracle that he's alive, it seems like he can't wake up. After the butterfly demons reached this conclusion, they all revealed disappointed expressions. A person that was in a vegetative state, no matter how rare or precious he was, his value would be greatly reduced. What do we do with him now? Whether it's a subterranean spy or not, since he can't wake up, there is no value in this information. The young white butterfly demon said, "Since it's like this, we'll sell him to the gnomes. Our village is lacking in resources, so we hope we can sell him for a good price." Right. They could only do this. The butterfly demons didn't have any source of income. This strange being that fell from the sky had the ability to pass through the subterranean world, this meant he wasn't normal. Perhaps they could sell him for a sky-high price. The gnome merchants were all overflowing with wealth. Even if they took out a bit, it would be enough for the butterfly demons to spend for a long time. The butterfly demons told the news of an unknown foreign being to a gnome merchant. This matter attracted the attention of the gnome merchants and they immediately sent several merchant representatives to the Tree Valley village. The dark gnomes were shrewd and sinister, they were famous in the purgatory world. However, no matter how experienced the gnomes were, when they saw the being the butterfly demons wanted to sell, they all opened their eyes wide in disbelief. What was this thing? This being was very strange, it had never appeared in the purgatory world before. The butterfly demons saw the dark gnomes reveal serious expressions and their hearts filled with worry. Could this being they picked up bring wealth to the village? Chapter 529. The purgatory world was a chaotic world, not forming an orderly civilization and not forming a kingdom. All the races and creatures lived in a loose manner around a few strong cities, a bit like the forest of chaos. Therefore, the locals in this place had a very low level of culture. There were very few records passed down in the purgatory world and there were even fewer records of the surface world. The purgatory locals didn't even know the surface world existed and they didn't know the humans living on the surface. The dark gnome leader was a fierce-looking one-eyed man. When he saw his subordinates still discussing, he was already a bit impatient. Take a blade and cut it open to take a look. The dark gnomes were the most famous merchants in the purgatory world and one of the most inventive races in the purgatory world. It was by excavating large amounts of ancient ruins and even the ruins of the Devil's Gate that they obtained many incredible ancient techniques and demonic alchemy techniques, allowing this race that wasn't that strong to have a small status in the purgatory world. It was clear that the gnomes were a race with an exploratory spirit. Now that they were facing the unknown, they had to continue with this spirit. What was it that they didn't know? What was so hard about it? Wouldn't they understand once they cut it open? The butterfly demons were naturally unhappy. The young white butterfly demon came out to stop them. You're randomly cutting it without buying it. What if it becomes worthless? We'll take a sample and send it back to the alchemy room for analysis. Only then will we know what abilities he has and whether he has value or not. The dark gnome revealed an impatient expression, otherwise how can we value it without knowing anything? Do you still want to sell it? Sell, of course we want to sell it. A butterfly demon elder quickly came out and pulled the white butterfly demon to the side. Little village chief, this foreign race doesn't have any use with us, let them cut it. The butterfly demons picked up the foreign race that fell from the sky and wanted to exchange it for some resources for the village. If they couldn't sell it, there was no value in keeping it here. The white butterfly demon village chief was unwilling, but there was nothing she could do. Don't waste time, cut a finger first. The dark gnome leader ordered, this foreign race doesn't seem weak, his skin and bones should be sturdy, so we need to be quick. Yes. The goblin unsheathed an ancient black gold sword from his waist and walked out. This blade was completely black, like it was made of gold or jade, with a faint golden glow. It was made from a material called black diamond in the purgatory world. This material was 10 times stronger than normal diamond and it had a trace of destructive attribute. In the forging process of a normal weapon, just a little bit was needed to turn it into a sharp blade that could cut through iron like mud, not to mention a blade made entirely out of black diamond. The little fox hid in the corner, acting as if it had nothing to do with it. Its black eyes kept turning, but there was a trace of mischievousness in them. Choosing his fingers in the darkness, he raised his hand and chopped. Clang! The black gold ancient knife broke like brittle glass, and the fragments scattered around like raindrops. The black dwarf was caught off guard and was hit by the fragments. Each black gold diamond fragment was extremely sharp. It pierced through his body like piercing a layer of paper. The unlucky guy screamed and fell to the ground dead on the spot. What's going on? Everyone was dumbfounded. How sharp was the jet black ancient blade? This strike did not even leave a scratch on his skin. Instead, the jet black ancient saber was shattered. This foreign race's physique was actually this strong. Perhaps it wasn't inferior to the dragon race at all. Whether it was the butterfly demon or the gnome, they didn't suspect it was a defensive cultivation technique. This was because when a person lost their will, no matter how strong their protective spirit energy was or how strong their cultivation technique was, it was useless. How could the purgatory bumpkins know? After the starlight immortal body was cultivated to the perfection realm, there was no need for one's consciousness to activate it. When a certain part of the body was injured, the starlight immortal body would automatically create a defensive mechanism. When the jet black ancient blade slashed down and the blade touched the skin, it was actually shattered by a layer of starlight. The butterfly demon was pleasantly surprised. They had picked up a treasure. They had picked up a treasure. The foreign race's body was harder than a jet black diamond, so it shouldn't be cheaper than a jet black diamond, right? Even if it was sold at the price of a jet black diamond, it would still be a large amount of wealth. It's actually this strong. The gnome leader pulled out a blade covered in demonic runes. Humph, I don't believe the demon hunting blade can't cut you open. The gnome leader held the blade with both hands as he chanted. The runes on the blade lit up and it released a powerful energy fluctuation. The blade stabbed at the foreign race's arm. The starlight immortal body was activated again. The faint starlight collided with the blade. The dark gnome leader felt like his blade had hit the impenetrable dragon scales and a large rebound made his wrist feel pain. Not only did he not break Chu Tian's defense, something even more unexpected happened. Flames appeared on Chu Tian's body. A deathly flame, a flame that could annihilate all living beings. This is bad. The dark gnome leader quickly moved aside, but the gnomes around him were not as lucky. The netherworld flame touched a bit of the flame, but it was like oil touching a spark. It was instantly engulfed by the flames, finally not leaving a single residue behind. This foreign race's body could spit fire. Who had ever seen a flame that could burn a gnome to ashes with a single spark? This flame was definitely not a normal flame. Just the power of this flame was enough to make it infinitely valuable. The foreign race was in a situation where they were unaware, but they could passively defend and even passively counterattack. This was rarely seen in any living being. For this kind of living being to have such a strong ability, it could be compared to a giant dragon. 1,000 dark crystals. The dark gnome leader shouted out a price. I want this living being. 1,000 dark crystals was a large sum to the butterfly demon village. Each butterfly demon revealed a look of wild joy. Wait a minute. That white butterfly demon village chief came out. This foreign race is this strong, I'm afraid a trivial 1,000 dark crystals is too little. The butterfly demons don't have the qualifications to bargain with me. 1,000 dark crystals is already a very generous price. No, we can't accept this price. You dare reject me? There's only 800 now. The dark gnome coldly looked at the white butterfly demon and said, "You better think carefully before you speak, before I get angry." 200 dark crystals were gone with a single sentence. This loss was just too large. The white butterfly demon firmly said, "We won't sell this foreign race, you can leave." The other butterfly demons revealed anxious expressions. How could this be? Was the village chief crazy? So many of my subordinates have died and you're not selling. The dark gnome leader was clearly angry from shame. Are you playing with us? Gnomes aren't good to provoke. Humph, 1,800 dark crystals to send beggars away. Although our butterfly demons aren't a strong race, we aren't that easy to trick. The white butterfly demon retorted, "The butterfly demons will compensate you for your losses, but we won't sell this foreign race, please leave." The dark gnome leader was about to explode. The white butterfly demon gave a snort and several butterfly demons surrounded him. The purgatory world locals grew up in chaos and slaughter. Even the weak butterfly demons were not cowards. Good, very good, just wait and see. The dark gnome was angry, but he was still in the butterfly demon village and there were butterfly demons all around. If he lost all face, it would be too much of a loss. It was better to leave this place first and gather troops as soon as possible. They would break through the butterfly demon village in one fell swoop and steal that precious and mysterious foreign race. The butterfly demon elder saw the gnome leave and said in a worried voice, "The gnome's influence isn't small. Now that I've offended them, the gnomes won't let this go. I'm afraid this won't be good for us. Elder can be assured." The white butterfly demon's face was filled with joy and excitement. "We must have picked up a large treasure this time. We need to bring it to Darkness City before the gnomes return. As long as we successfully auction it off in Darkness City, our entire village will become rich." Is this creature really that precious? Although I don't know what it is, looking at its invulnerable body and all kinds of special abilities, this race is comparable to dragons and great demons. If a living dragon was auctioned off, how much do you think it would be worth? Could it be that it isn't enough to make our little village rich? That's right. As long as we can exchange for enough dark crystals, our entire village can move to Darkness City. Would we need to fear the revenge of these dark gnomes? The butterfly demons put down the worries in their hearts. This was a once-in-100 years chance. How could they give it up so easily? They had to hold it in their hands. The white butterfly demons began to prepare as quickly as possible. With a population of several thousand, they mobilized an entire 1,000 soldiers to form an escort team. The dark gnomes could return at any time, so they had to leave as soon as possible. The white butterfly demons were about to set off after organizing the team. The butterfly demons had the ability to fly, so they decided to transport them through the air. This way, the chances of them meeting trouble would be lowered to the lowest. When the team was about to leave the tree valley. This is bad. A group of green demons has appeared in the east. There was a large group of ugly creatures gathering here. These creatures were around 2 meters tall and had green skin. They were very strong, like strengthened goblins, but they had long demon tails. Their weapons were wolf-tooth clubs or warhammers. Green demons, a kind of low-grade demon. Although their demon bloodline wasn't strong, there were many of them. They were born with divine strength and their skin was thick, so they were a cruel dark race. The white butterfly demon quickly came out to respond, "You've crossed the boundary. This is the butterfly demon's territory. Hey, don't be so angry. I heard that the butterfly demon village picked up a treasure." The large green demon leader revealed a greedy expression, "Since the treasure fell in the forest, it belongs to every race in the forest. What qualifications do you butterfly demons have to take it for yourselves? Why don't you take it out and we can all share it?" The butterfly demons were seething with anger. But before the butterfly demons could respond. That's right. A black line appeared on a hill not far away and several hundred tall figures appeared. These creatures looked like minotaurs, but they were even uglier. There were demon horns on their heads, horned demons. Not only the butterfly demons, even the green demons' faces sunk. The green demon leader roared in a low voice, "What are you doing here?" "Ha, ha, ha." The horned demon confidently said, "What do you think?" Not long after the green demons and horned demons arrived, another large black figure appeared in the sky. A group of creatures with flesh wings and sharp beaks appeared. It was the winged demon race. One could guess what had happened even if they used their feet. The dark gnomes didn't have enough time, so they incited the nearby existences to fight for more time. Damn! The Purgatory World natives were very sensitive to territory. Their territory being invaded was a large provocation and humiliation. The butterfly demons were angry. "Alright, since we're going to make a move, let's see who lives to the end." A large battle was about to begin. The Purgatory World was like this. Any reason could be the fuse for a war. This kind of matter happened every day, and it was even more chaotic than the Forest of Chaos. Chapter 530. Chu Tian took several spiritual attributed sacred herbs and fell into a deep sleep, only leaving a trace of his will to circulate. When the precious spiritual attributed herbs were absorbed by the netherworld flame, it slowly recovered his spiritual energy bit by bit. The process was slow and steady. This experience also loosened the bottleneck of his cultivation. Chu Tian realized that a turning point had arrived, and naturally he wouldn't let go of this precious chance. Therefore, while recovering his spiritual energy, he gathered countless streams of new spirit energy into a river. Hong. Finally, when his spiritual energy was completely recovered, Chu Tian's cultivation easily broke through to the peak 4th true spirit layer. He was only a step away from the 5th true spirit layer. Ah! He's awake. He's awake. The butterfly demons saw Chu Tian wake up, and it was like they had seen a ghost, immediately running out of the secret room to report. Chu Tian was a bit confused. "Fox, come out." Peng. A black fog appeared. The little fox wagged its tail as it sat on his shoulder. Chu Tian looked around and saw that the living style and architecture was strange. It was clear that this was the residence of the Purgatory World natives. "What is this place? What happened here?" The little fox described everything that happened during the day and night that Chu Tian was asleep. "Damn, father has never been this popular before." When Chu Tian learned that the Purgatory World races were fighting over him, although he was speechless, he also felt very honored. It seemed like handsome people were welcomed everywhere. Chu Tian didn't even have time to fantasize. There was the sound of wings flapping around him. There were around 100 butterfly demons surrounding him. When Chu Tian looked up, he saw that the butterfly demons were all different colors. The leader had snow-white skin and it had an exotic appearance, but it was still in line with human aesthetics. The white butterfly demon was shocked and anxious. "You. Why are you awake?" The butterfly demon language wasn't the spirit insect language or the elven language, rather it was the demon language. It was the mainstream language of the Purgatory World. There were very few people on the surface who knew the demon language, but it had already spread in the future. The butterfly demon's language was the most common and common demon language. In the past, when he studied the materials left behind by the demon race, Chu Tian had naturally learned a bit, so there was no problem in communicating. "Is it strange?" Chu Tian shrugged. "Thank you very much for your care. As for me, let me tell you a fact. I am a human from the surface world. The human race is a large race in the surface world. There are at least 80 billion, if not 100 billion. If you really like humans so much, I will catch 300 to 500 of them for you. Alright, I have something to do. Forgive me for not being able to accompany you for tea." What? There were hundreds of billions of such creatures. Every butterfly demon had a stunned look on their faces. The number of intelligent races in the Purgatory World added up didn't even reach this number. "You can't leave. The outside is already surrounded by horned demons, green demons, and winged demons. The white butterfly demon pulled out a snake-shaped sword and pointed it at him. The butterfly demon's property can't fall into anyone's hands, capture him. The butterfly demon's attacks were very special. Whether or not the butterfly demon had a spiritual type source spirit, they had an innate ability to turn spirit energy into spiritual matter. With a flap of the large butterfly wings, countless spiritual matter turned into dust, instantly covering the surroundings. The dust had a strong hypnotic and confusing spiritual energy, so it was very useful against normal living beings. With this many butterfly demons attacking together, perhaps even a true spirit expert would become weak. This kind of little trick has no use against me. This mysterious foreign race did not use any defensive measures and was directly exposed to the butterfly demon's attacks, but he was not affected at all. Chu Tian calmly looked at the white butterfly demon. Spiritual energy severed. The white butterfly demon's body trembled. She could clearly feel the connection between her consciousness and spirit energy being severed. Although her cultivation was still there, she couldn't use it at all. Chu Tian casually stepped forward and appeared behind the white butterfly demon. He grabbed the white butterfly demon's neck and released netherworld flames from his fingertips. Do you think you can catch me with just you? Innate spatial energy. The butterfly demon's face turned pale with fright. The white butterfly demon was covered in a cold sweat. She was even more afraid of the flames released by this mysterious being. She had personally seen its might, even a single spark could burn a person to ashes. This foreign race's entire hand was covered in flames, but not a single hair was injured. This was clearly a perfect control of his strength. Too strong. Too strong. Now she finally knew how stupid her actions were. This person had a rare innate spatial energy, it was as easy as turning his hand to kill her. It was impossible to stop him from leaving. The butterfly demon village chief did not even have time to beg for mercy before sounds of fighting came from outside the valley. Her face sunk again. This is bad, they're attacking again. A few low-rank demons? Chu Tian looked around and his heart skipped a beat, as if he was thinking of something. Come with me. The white butterfly demon didn't even have time to speak before she was sent out of the valley with Chu Tian. There was a large battle going on in the valley with close to 10,000 people fighting here. Chu Tian had suddenly appeared in front of everyone and he was holding the butterfly demon village chief hostage, which shocked everyone. Everyone be quiet. Chu Tian's opening words stunned everyone. I can already feel the passion of the purgatory world people, so I won't be polite. Chu Tian let go of the white butterfly demon and looked over everyone. He spoke in a very relaxed voice like he was talking to a friend. I want to congratulate everyone here. The horned demon leader spat out 2 streams of fire from his nostrils. What did he say? Chu Tian continued to say in a serious manner, because from today on, you will welcome a wise, talented, and peerlessly handsome leader. That's right, it's me. Your only way out is to obey. I advise you not to do anything stupid, otherwise the consequences will be very serious. With these words, the 10,000 low-grade purgatory world demons were all stunned. After around 10 seconds, they finally erupted in wild laughter. It was probably because the purgatory world lacked a sense of humor, so this joke that wasn't that funny almost made these demons burst out laughing. A single person facing over 10,000 fierce purgatory world demons and confidently announcing that he would be their leader, was there a more funny joke in this world? The winged demon leader couldn't hold it in. Go, capture him. The winged demons had the advantage of flying. Over 1,000 winged demons moved as fast as lightning as they charged at Chu Tian. When the butterfly demon village people saw this, they quickly went to block them. The butterfly demon village chief stopped her people. Let's watch first. No matter how high a person's cultivation was, they were still in the true spirit realm. The strength of these low-grade demons wasn't clear, but it was more than enough to surround a true spirit cultivator with over 1,000 people. Even a powerful spirit transformation cultivator couldn't take it. Chu Tian closed his eyes and shook his head, revealing a trace of mockery on his lips. Spiritual energy explosion. Chu Tian first used his vision domain divine sense to cover the surrounding several hundred meters before exploding most of his spiritual energy. This created a large-scale spiritual energy attack, and the close to 1,000 winged demons were submerged by the spiritual energy explosion. Their minds instantly went blank and they all lost consciousness, falling to the ground like rain. What happened? What happened? This being did not move at all, but he instantly made all the winged demons lose their battle strength. Only the butterfly demons who were sensitive to spiritual energy felt this. Each butterfly demon revealed a look of deep fear. They simply couldn't imagine that a person could create such a terrifying spiritual attack. Spiritual attacks were mostly one-on-one. They had never seen such a large-scale indiscriminate attack before. Whether it was the spiritual energy cut against the white butterfly demons or the spiritual energy explosion, they were all spiritual energy techniques learned from the demon ant king. The spiritual energy cut was a very good non-fatal control technique. It could instantly destroy a cultivator's resistance. As long as the cultivator's divine sense was not strong enough, especially if they didn't even have a mind's lamp, no matter how high their cultivation base, cultivation technique, or secret techniques they had, they would not be able to withstand a single blow from Chu Tian. As for the spiritual energy explosion, this technique consumed a large amount of energy, but its effect was very strong. Chu Tian could imitate the demon ant's attack, gathering a large amount of spiritual energy and instantly exploding it. The range of the fluctuations and the number of targets it could attack was something no spiritual energy technique could compare to. Of course, the spiritual energy explosion's effect was limited. It was mainly used to deal with opponents with lower divine sense and cultivation bases. It could destroy a large area of the enemy's defenses in one go, which was very useful in large-scale battles. Relax, they aren't dead, they just fainted. Chu Tian stood in the middle of a large group of paralyzed winged demons, and this scene was as shocking as it could be. This is just a small punishment. If you dare do anything excessive, I won't be merciful. I don't believe it. The horned demon leader angrily roared, "Let's go together and take him down." The horned demons and green demons all attacked. Before the human even felt it, the long-range attacks arrived. What was hard to explain was that this human was still standing in the same place. All the long-range attacks hit his body, but it was like they were passing through air, not causing any damage at all. Why do you force me to use violence to solve this problem? Chu Tian released his powerful divine sense again and used a move he had never used before, Heart Flame. Ah! Ah! Flame! Flame! Chu Tian still did not move half a centimeter. When the horned demons and green demons were about to charge over, once they came within 10 feet of him, their bodies would inexplicably ignite. The terrifying blue and white flames would instantly burn their bodies to ashes. 1, 2, 10, dozens of them. The horned demons and green demons were like moths flying into a flame. Not a single one was spared. Monster, he was simply a monster. Chapter 531. He didn't use any cultivation technique. He didn't use any secret techniques. No matter what direction or angle the horned demons and green demons came from, as long as they entered a certain range, they would spontaneously combust without any warning. That's right. They would suddenly spontaneously combust. Blue and white flames rushed out from the inside and devoured the demon's body. The demon's incomparably tough body originally had a very strong resistance to elemental energy such as flames, but in front of this kind of flame without any temperature, it was as fragile as a cicada's wing without any resistance. In an instant, the demon's bones and flesh turned into nothingness, leaving only a small handful of ashes. A strong opponent wasn't terrifying. The most terrifying thing was knowing nothing about a strong opponent. Several hundred horned demons and green demons did not fear death as they charged at Chu Tian like moths to a flame. In the end, they were all turned to ashes with a cry of despair. Facing this kind of scene, no matter how cruel the purgatory locals were, they wouldn't be able to maintain their fighting spirit. Chu Tian's method seemed strange, but they wouldn't think like this if they understood the principle. First, the heart flame attack was based on the vision domain divine sense. When the horned demons and green demons charged at him, Chu Tian directly used his divine sense to possess them. These people were not prepared at all, and their netherworld flame was suddenly planted in their bodies by his divine sense. How sharp was Chu Tian's netherworld flame? Of course, after igniting his spirit energy and cultivation base, the netherworld flame became even stronger and it naturally spontaneously combusted. Even the sturdiest bones couldn't escape this kind of attack. No. Too strong. These low-grade demons finally understood how stupid their actions were. They actually wanted to catch this kind of monster. Perhaps they would run as far as they could normally. The green demon, horned demon, and winged demon leaders all realized that Chu Tian wasn't joking. This deep and mysterious foreign race was not something they could fight. They had no other choice now, they had to run. Want to run? Chu Tian did not say a word as he disappeared and appeared again, disappearing and appearing again. In the blink of an eye, he jumped to 3 different positions. The winged demon beast, the horned demon beast, and the green demon beast did not even have a chance to react before the 3 of them were brought to the white butterfly demon's side. What are you doing? The 4 leaders began to panic. Chu Tian released 4 balls of flames from his body. They were like 4 white crystals that revolved around him. He gently pushed with both hands, and each white flame lotus drilled into a person's body. At the same time, he left a rune on the surface of the person's skin. When the 4 leaders saw this, they were so scared that their faces turned pale. The fire of this alien race was too powerful. Just a few small sparks were enough to cause harm to them. Not to mention, the flame lotus that Chu Tian had just condensed was extremely powerful. Chu Tian still had a calm appearance, like he was joking with a friend. This is the heart flame curse I invented. I sealed a netherworld flame in your bodies, so don't worry. In its sealed state, it won't harm you at all, but with just a thought of mine, you'll instantly turn into ashes. You! The horned demon leader flew into a rage. When he was about to make a move, he suddenly felt a burning sensation behind him. The seal lit up and the netherworld flame sealed inside seemed like it was about to come out. I forgot to remind you. Chu Tian revealed a kind smile to him. The heart flame curse is fused with your divine sense, so this curse can sense your thoughts. If you have killing intent towards me, the curse will loosen. If you dare to make a move against me, I guarantee that before you can even touch me, you'll turn into ashes. So don't think of sneak attacks, it's useless. The 4 leaders' faces turned ashen. How could there be such a powerful and malicious move in this world? Under the heart flame curse, not only were their lives in Chu Tian's hands, they couldn't even have any killing intent towards Chu Tian. As long as they had killing intent towards Chu Tian, the curse would loosen and threaten their lives. This was a perfect enslavement technique. These were all new tricks created by Chu Tian. The reason why Chu Tian could create this kind of secret technique was because of Chu Tian's own knowledge of the past and present, therefore he had a lot of experience in creating secret techniques and studying heart cultivation techniques. The second reason was that after Chu Tian swallowed the ancient ice springs while in the death ice field, not only did his divine sense increase, he also gained a deeper control over flames. The netherworld flame and Chu Tian had already merged together. I'll give you one last chance, surrender or die. They looked at each other in blank dismay and finally gave up resisting. They all knelt down on one knee. We surrender. So straightforward. But it was expected. The purgatory world was dominated by the dark race and the demon race. Chu Tian was well aware of the nature of the dark race and the demon race. They were cunning, cruel, chaotic, and had no credibility. In this kind of place where only the strong were respected, just benefits and persuasion were not enough to bind them. Chu Tian had just arrived and didn't have any influence, so he could only use a simple and direct intimidation. Holding their lives in his hands, this was the only way he could firmly control these demons. In the purgatory world, the weak submitting to the strong was a matter of heaven and earth. As for integrity and backbone, These things were rarely seen in the purgatory world, especially the small and weak races. This was also why they didn't even think about surrendering. Chu Tian had heard the leader understand the situation in this area. This small forest was not too big and there were many powers scattered around. Their 4 villages were only the most common powers in this area. No wonder they were this weak. The butterfly demons, horn demons, green demons, and winged demons, these 4 races were very close to each other, so they could immediately respond to any news. Actually, this race didn't fight. If they were placed in the Forest of Chaos, they would just be a small power that didn't dare go against the Dark Forest laws. The true spirit cultivators in these 4 villages could be counted on one hand. This was also the reason why they were easily subdued by Chu Tian, and it also meant that these small villages weren't strong. Chu Tian found a special characteristic. The strength of the Purgatory World natives was very uniform, and each adult demon had a cultivation that wasn't weak in the awakened soul realm. This also meant that in the Purgatory World, the most common native, as long as they were trained a bit, they could become first-class soldiers on the continent. The dark races and demons were all natural-born warriors or had many rare talents on the surface. Therefore, the Purgatory World was simply a natural army camp for Chu Tian. The forest was within the territory of Darkness City. Darkness City was the largest underground city within 1,000 miles, with a population of several million. With its strong strength, all the villages and tribes within its territory had to submit. Looking at it like this, although the Purgatory World was very different from the surface world, it was still similar to the Forest of Chaos. Chu Tian felt that he should build a transport tower here. The Purgatory World had large amounts of rare resources on the surface, and there were many resources and goods on the surface. If they could be transported to the Purgatory World, there would be a large market for them. The only problem in front of him was that Chu Tian had no way of contacting Miracle City. The distance from the Purgatory World to the surface was over 1,000 miles. Not to mention the fact that there was a thick layer of rock, volcanic lava, energy or veins, and the weightless layer. With large areas isolated, Miracle City's signal couldn't reach here no matter how strong it was. Similarly, even if they could establish a connection in the Purgatory World, the current communication technology couldn't connect to the surface. Chu Tian couldn't contact the young miss, so he couldn't gather the materials. It didn't matter, the Purgatory World was rich in resources and there would always be a way. This trip down wasn't easy, so Chu Tian didn't want to go back without any achievements. You don't need to be afraid of me. Chu Tian sat in the largest room in the Tree Valley. The important people of the butterfly demons, winged demons, horn demons, and green demons were all standing in front of him. Our surface world is a civilized world, so as long as you follow the rules, I won't do anything to you. First, report the situation of your villages. The white butterfly demon stood up and said, "Great leader, our butterfly demon village has over 4,000 people and they all have battle strength, with around 3,000 young adults." The green demon village chief said, "The green demon village has 5,000 people and around 3,000–4,000 young adults." The winged demon village chief reported, "There are around 4,000 winged demons and around 3,000 young adults." The horned demon village chief reported, "There are around 6,000 horned demons and around 5,000 of them are strong warriors." This isn't bad. Chu Tian nodded in satisfaction. He looked at the white butterfly demon village chief beside him. "You demons have long and stinky names, so I'll give you a human name. From today on, you will be called Bai Dai." Bai Dai quickly said in a happy voice, "Thank you, great leader." The other 3 village chiefs revealed looks of jealousy. The great leader clearly cared for the butterfly demons a bit more. "All right, listen well." Chu Tian stood up and announced, "From today on, I will lead everyone on the road of expansion, stealing territory, stealing resources, and stealing people. I, Chu Tian, guarantee that as long as you follow me, your future will be bright and you will become more and more developed. As long as we work hard, it isn't impossible to take down Darkness City in the future." Everyone was scared out of their wits. What? Take down Darkness City? Had this guy lost his mind? The village chiefs were all sweating in their hearts. This was bad, they actually recognized a madman as their great leader. Chu Tian saw everyone's expressions, but he was too lazy to explain. This was because in Chu Tian's eyes, there were many ways to take down a city. As long as the purgatory world was connected to Miracle City, with Miracle Commerce's strength, wouldn't it be strange to take down Darkness City? Alright, we'll plan our short-term expansion plan first. Chu Tian didn't even have time to look at the map before several butterfly demons flew over in a panic to report, "This is bad, the dark gnomes are back. They brought many people with many experts, so I'm afraid they don't have good intentions." Chapter 532. The dark gnomes brought an army with them. At the very front was a row of dark monsters she had never heard of before. They were of different shapes and sizes, with most of them being gray and black. They had twisted limbs and 3 heads and 6 arms, just like different creatures fused together. They didn't belong to any species, they were a kind of synthetic life form. Gold-cultivated beasts. The butterfly demons recognized the origin of these creatures. The dark gnomes excavated the demon ruins and grasped the demon's technology, which was the legendary gold refinement. It's said that gold refinement was not a technology of this world, rather it was a technology from another place. It could analyze the secrets of life and create miraculous and incredible things. The gold-cultivated beasts were dark monsters created by the dark gnomes through gold refinement. The dark gnomes were very weak, but they had a position in the purgatory world. The most important reason was that the dark gnomes represented the most advanced technology in the purgatory world. The so-called knowledge was power, this saying was not without reason. Roar! At this time, a unique synthetic monster walked out. Compared to the other ugly and disgusting gold-cultivated beasts that looked like melted wax figures, this monster looked relatively normal. It was about 3 meters tall and had a sturdy and broad body. Its skin was covered in lumps and had a metallic luster. There were also many inverted bone spurs on its body. Its ugly eyes shone with a dazzling red light, and an abnormally powerful aura was released from its body. Tyrant! It's a tyrant! When the butterfly demons saw this creature, they revealed looks of fear. The tyrant camp used to be an ancient ruin. After the dark gnomes occupied it, it gradually developed into a camp. These dark gnomes were proficient in refining creatures in gold refinement, using different creatures to create terrifying dark monsters. The tyrant was the most representative product of the camp, and this was where the camp's name came from. The tyrant's synthetic material was a fresh high-level demon's carcass, combined with more than a dozen living creatures, and with extraordinary luck and opportunity, it was surprisingly successful in its creation. Now even if the dark gnomes were given the same materials, it would be hard for them to create a second tyrant. This tyrant was not only very terrifying, it also had a high intelligence and could be controlled by the dark gnomes. It was this kind of dark gnome's guardian god that came to attack the Tree Valley. The butterfly demons had clearly underestimated the importance the dark gnomes placed on Chu Tian. Behind the gold-cultivated monsters led by the tyrant was a large group of mercenaries bought by the dark gnomes. These mercenaries came from various areas of the purgatory world and were all dark races and demons with decent battle strength. There were quite a few shadow demons and fierce demons among them. The most important thing was that these purgatory world mercenaries had been modified by the dark gnomes. It turned out that the dark goblins considered the cost and risk. They could not directly recruit strong people, so they hired some disabled or seriously injured mercenaries at a high price. Then, they used demon alchemy to make limbs for the disabled parts of these mercenaries to repair them. Thus, the mercenaries were all kinds of strange creatures. Their alchemy organs were not necessarily weaker than before, and they even possessed many other unimaginable functions. The last row was the dark gnome. The dark goblins did not send out many people, only about 2,000 in total. However, they brought all kinds of strange tools, such as a wheeled cart that floated in the air, a 2-wheeled motorcycle, and a weapon of war with heavy tracks and a thick cannon barrel. The dark goblins also held a weapon similar to a gun, but it looked very different from the source energy weapons made by Chu Tian. The dark goblin technology came from two places, one was the demon's alchemy and the other was the ancient goblin technology. The former was an esoteric subject, while the latter was a pure study of mechanical power. The ancestors of the goblin race had some achievements in this area, but it could no longer be seen in the surface world. He did not expect to see it here. The goblin mechanics were different from the puppet techniques of the surface and Chu Tian's source energy technology. It could be said like this. The goblin mechanics were more like a pure physical science. They were good at using complex mechanical parts as a foundation to design a complete set of mechanical structures. Its weakness was very clear, it didn't have any enchantments and purely relied on the movement of objects. It was common knowledge that the more complex an object was, the easier it was to break. Therefore, if one or two parts broke, the entire thing couldn't be used. The puppet technique was a secret battle technique that used runes and control as the core. Source energy science used source energy arrays as the core and structures as the support. Although pure goblin mechanics had no value in the future, the goblins' ability to make secret machines was still very valuable. Chu Tian had already gathered a large group of mechanical technique talents in the Great Zhou country. If he could obtain a large group of mechanical design masters and combine it with the Yun Sek's source energy science, their future development would be even more balanced. Of course. It was too early to think about this. It was better to think about how to deal with the current situation. An old goblin with a head full of white hair and a body full of wrinkles was majestically sitting on a goblin tank. He spoke with the tone of a high and mighty king. The goblin's patience is limited. I'll give you 10 seconds to take out the things we want, otherwise the tree valley will turn into scorched earth. Stop counting, save your energy. A calm voice floated out. Chu Tian slowly floated down from the tree valley and landed on the ground. The butterfly demons, winged demons, horn demons, and green demons all came out and surrounded Chu Tian, looking like they were going to fight to the death with the tyrant barracks. The dark goblins were stunned by the scene in front of them. What was going on? Weren't the 4 villages fighting already? Why were they working together now? There was also this foreign race. When did he wake up and what was his current situation? The old goblin stared at him. What is going on here? You still can't see. I'm the boss now and they're all working for me. Chu Tian looked at the dark goblins in the distance and said, You're driving a pile of scrap metal and bringing all these ugly monsters and handicapped people with missing arms and legs. You dare cause trouble in my territory with this kind of lineup? It had only been a while. This place had become the foreign race's territory. What on earth was going on? The dark goblins didn't care that much, they had to get their hands on this foreign race. With his invulnerable body and the flame energy in his body that could make people tremble, this was an incomparably valuable biological material. Perhaps they could refine an even stronger life form than the tyrant barracks. The old goblin coldly said, An outsider that broke into the purgatory world, what qualifications does he have to be the master of this place? I advise you to obediently surrender and you'll suffer less, otherwise. The dark goblin tank raised its cannon barrel to replace the words it was about to say. A round cannon shell shot out from the long cannon barrel. Although the gnomes didn't understand source energy technology, this cannon shell was made from a very high energy crystal. If this cannon shell hit the tree valley, it would cause a large amount of damage. Hong! Chu Tian shot out sword chi with a flick of his finger, causing the cannon shell to explode in mid-air. It instantly created a storm-like shockwave that made the surrounding area turn chaotic. You dare show off this scrap metal in front of father? Chu Tian snorted in disdain. If it wasn't for the fact that father couldn't transport the source energy cannons, you would have already been flattened. Indeed. The dark goblins' war chariots and tanks were a bit interesting. The gnomes' weapons were too inferior. This kind of cannon used crystals as ammunition, it had a high cost and limited power, as well as a large amount of risk. This was because these crystals could not be controlled. Even if they met experts like Chu Tian or Vivian who could control space, they would be able to see beautiful fireworks if they fired a few shots at these weapons. Miracle Commerce's source energy weapons were not as dangerous. The source energy weapons were powered by batteries and the batteries were stable. Without the source energy array being activated, there wasn't a big problem with safety. Not to mention the fact that the source energy weapons were very strong. Even the earliest source energy cannons were 2-3 times stronger than these gnomes. The old gnome said with a cold smile, "Don't be arrogant too early." At this time, the super synthetic creature tyrant walked out. From the energy aura released by the tyrant, this should be a super biological weapon equivalent to a spirit transformation expert. Duel? Chu Tian had no fear on his face as he calmly walked out. "I like it. You think you can defeat the tyrant?" The old gnome gave a sharp laugh of ridicule. The tyrant is a high-grade demon expert, a great being created from the corpse of an armor-refining demon and several biological materials. It not only has the battle strength of the 7th true spirit layer, its defensive abilities have reached the 9th true spirit layer and it has grasped several different battle techniques. You think you can injure the tyrant, you think you can injure it. You really are long-winded. Chu Tian couldn't listen anymore. Phaseless sword finger. Puchi. It was like cutting a piece of paper. There was no beautiful scene. There was no dazzling pose. The tyrant that could block 10,000 people trembled as it was cut from head to toe by an invisible blade. It was cut in half as it fell to the ground, dead. Silence. Complete silence. Everyone's eyes almost popped out. This must be a dream, right? What was going on? This phaseless sword consumed less than half of his spirit energy, but the effect was still very satisfying. Chu Tian laughed as he provoked, "I only used a bit of strength and it actually killed him." "You're right, I really can't injure it." You. Kill him, kill him. Flatten this place." The gnomes were filled with rage. The other refined beasts and mercenaries all charged forward after receiving the order. Chu Tian shook his head, took out a scroll, and threw it out, releasing the 18 golden figures that were sealed. The little fox did not slack off and instantly released 6 source spirits, summoning 6 level 3 demon beasts. "Want to fight? All right. You purgatory locals, open your eyes and see Father's true strength." Chu Tian had even used the phaseless sword and released the 18 divine servants, so naturally he didn't plan to hold back. He wanted to use his overwhelming strength to directly crush these ignorant frogs at the bottom of the well. Chapter 533. The 18 divine servants were an important part of Chu Tian's battle strength. With the strength of the 6th true spirit layer, they could not be killed, they were simply a group of terrifying killing machines. The gnomes couldn't even take a single blow, so how could they block them? They were just gnomes that had been overwhelmed by rage. They wished they could tear Chu Tian to pieces right now. How could they think of anything else? The mercenaries charged at the front, with the gnomes holding various weapons to support them. These mercenaries' limbs were all refined by alchemy, so although they didn't match well with their bodies and didn't look good, they still had a lot of strength. Divine sense possession. When the two sides were about to clash, the 18 divine servants were strengthened by Chu Tian's will and blue and white flames were ignited at the same time. The divine servants were already very strong and now with the terrifying netherworld flame, how could they be blocked by a few trivial refined beasts and several hundred mercenaries? The divine servants punched the refined beasts. Just the terrifying strength was enough to break the refined beasts' bones and send them flying. The netherworld flame was released and the refined beasts were instantly turned to ashes. Pang! A mercenary raised his thick arm to launch a sneak attack at the divine servant's back. The divine servant did not have any reaction at all, just like a rock being blown by the wind. Instead, the sneak attacker was like a cat that had its tail stepped on, letting out a pitiful cry. The netherworld flame followed his arm and spread to his entire body, swallowing everything in less than 2 seconds. A living person had disappeared just like this. This was even in a situation where they were attacking. The divine servants were already very strong, not to mention the netherworld flame. They were like 18 bolts of lightning, flashing through the enemy's formation. Whether it was the refined beasts or the mercenaries, they were all sent flying with pitiful cries, burning to ashes in the air. These mercenaries' defenses were simply a joke. From the beginning of the battle, they were completely unstoppable, like a hot knife through butter. Kill, kill for me, kill them all. The old gnome gave a shocked and angry roar. The gnome quickly raised his weapon to attack. From the strange tube in his hand, large amounts of purple crystal thorns were shot out, falling down like a dense rain. Goblin Crystal Stinger. The principles behind the gnome weapons were similar. They mainly relied on shooting out high-energy crystals to kill the enemy. The crystal spikes themselves had been refined with gold, so they had extremely strong piercing power. They could easily pierce through the target's protective spirit energy or cultivation technique before exploding. The 18 divine servants didn't care about this kind of attack at all. They didn't even bother to waste time defending. They allowed themselves to be bombarded over 100 times, but not even a single hair on their bodies was harmed. Cannon, use the cannon. The goblin was shocked and scared. He fired the cannon, and a huge cannonball landed on the divine servant's body. The divine servant's body paused for a moment before he walked out of the explosion. There were only some light injuries on the surface of his skin, but they healed in an instant. The divine servant didn't let such an insignificant attack delay him, and he continued to charge forward. They were all immortal monsters. 18 figures charged into the gnome army with a disdainful attitude, crashing into everything. War chariots, tanks, cannons, and other weapons were all crippled with a single punch. Then, they were torn into pieces in 2 or 3 hits, turning into a pile of scrap metal. This time they were truly terrified. Although they already knew that the foreign races weren't weak, they didn't think they would be this strong. They originally wanted to capture him and use him as biological material to refine a new biological weapon. In the end, they came with such an aggressive aura, but they were beaten so miserably. The tyrant was killed, the mercenaries were scattered, and the weapons that the gnomes had worked so hard to make were also heavily damaged. Are you out of tricks? Chu Tian crossed his arms in front of his chest as if he was watching a show. Seeing the gnomes run away in panic, he said with an unhappy expression, "This is too disappointing, I was hoping that you guys could bring something new." "Alright, I don't like to waste words. Either surrender or die, you guys choose." Bai Dai and the other village chiefs were shocked. Now they finally knew how strong this person was. He was a freakish genius who could split a tyrant into 2 with a wave of his hand. He could even summon more than 10 invulnerable and indestructible battle puppets. Even the inconspicuous little animals around him had shocking abilities. Was he still human? The only thing they could be glad about was that they surrendered fast enough. Otherwise, if they angered him, he could easily burn down the village. "You intruder! Damn spy! You think you can make us surrender with just this?" The old gnome shouted out in a sharp voice, "We have a backer in Darkness City, you're courting death if you dare make a move against us. Darkness City won't let you go, try and touch me if you dare." Chu Tian stomped his foot and disappeared, instantly appearing in front of the old gnome. A sword energy shot out from below, and the old goblin was sent flying dozens of meters away. Then, a ball of flames caught up to him and engulfed him. A moment ago, he was still clamoring, but in the next second, not even a speck of dust was left. Who still has something to say? Chu Tian stood on the gnome war chariot and looked around, just like a king looking down on his territory and citizens. He had an easygoing and unruly nature, but with this rare dignified expression, it was like he was a completely different person. "Stand out." The gnomes completely lost their fighting spirit. "We surrender, we surrender." The leader of the camp had already been killed, so how could they dare make any more resistance? Finally, all the gnomes at the scene chose to surrender and submit. This outsider used his own strength to directly and forcefully defeat the gnomes' army of several thousand, making the gnomes choose to surrender. This kind of ability was rarely seen even in the purgatory world. This group of dark gnomes was the power of an entire camp. Chu Tian ordered Bai Dai and the others to gather the troops, and he personally led them to the dark gnomes' tyrant camp. Chu Tian didn't have a place to stay in the purgatory world, so he couldn't enter Darkness City for now. The low-grade demons' villages were too small and weak, so he needed to find a more suitable stronghold. The tyrant camp wasn't considered big. If it was placed in the Forest of Chaos, it would be the size of a medium-sized town. Chu Tian was very satisfied with the tyrant camp. This was a very special place. The dark gnomes' camp was like a machine, being covered in copper pipes from the inside to the outside. There seemed to be energy flowing through them, keeping the entire camp running. The camp's walls were covered in mechanical devices and cannons invented by the dark gnomes, creating a strong defense. The gnomes' technology was very polluting to the environment. The tyrant camp's sewage pipes kept sending foul-smelling liquid into the small lake nearby. The ground around them was filled with green industrial and alchemy waste, with some colorful moss growing everywhere. There were several dozen chimneys in the camp that were constantly releasing black smoke. Chu Tian didn't like this point very much. But it didn't matter, it was a temporary stronghold anyway. Chu Tian was worried that the dark gnomes would resist, so he first teleported to the walls and used the divine servants to break all resistance before letting the large group slowly enter the camp. When Chu Tian walked into the camp, Chu Tian found that in the area where the dark gnomes lived, almost every household had a small alchemy workshop. There were many large laboratories in the camp, as well as all kinds of pure mechanical workshops. Every gnome seemed to be very busy. Strong races developed hard power. Weak races developed technology. The gnomes were pitifully weak and had limited growth potential, but they used technology to obtain a position in the cruel purgatory world. From this point, it could be considered respectable. This camp will be taken over by me from now on. Chu Tian didn't hide his identity as an intruder at all. My orders are above everything else. If anyone dares go against my will, I will not be stingy with the flames of punishment. Yes. We will follow the great leader's lead. The high-level members of the villages and gnomes all respectfully bowed down. In the purgatory world, the strong were respected. No matter where it was, strength was everything, so no one felt there was anything wrong with this. Who told Chu Tian to be the strongest? It was natural for him to become the new master of the camp. No one cared if this was an illegal invasion or not. Chu Tian calculated the data and found that there were over 10,000 dark gnomes living in the tyrant camp. Although the dark gnomes didn't have any battle strength, each one of them was an outstanding mechanical engineer and knew demonic alchemy. This could increase the overall strength of the group, so they had a high training value. We have 2 tasks. First, attack more villages and camps, seize more people, and occupy more territory. Second, I want you to collect spatial crystals, the more the better. Chu Tian took out a large map and marked the nearby large and small villages and camps. Chu Tian drew several circles, and these places were the first targets to be occupied. Everyone looked at each other in blank dismay. Chu Tian asked, "Do you have any objections? The great leader isn't from the purgatory world, so you don't understand the rules of the purgatory world. Expanding your territory like this, I'm afraid it will lead to a large disaster." Bai Dai came forward to advise, seizing the tyrant camp this time has already angered Darkness City. If we continue to wildly expand, I'm afraid there will be a large problem. Chu Tian disdainfully said, "This isn't something you need to worry about. Your duty is to follow my orders, do you understand?" "Yes, great leader." They didn't dare say anything else. Although this method was very dangerous, it was better than being burned to death by the great leader, right? Chu Tian's image in the eyes of the purgatory world people was even more terrifying than a demon. He wasn't someone they dared offend. Actually, it wasn't like Bai Dai didn't know what Chu Tian was talking about. But Chu Tian didn't have time to waste in the purgatory world for too long. Otherwise, if he spent a few months here to slowly develop, he would be able to stabilize himself. But would Miracle City still care? It had to be known that Miracle City wasn't completely smooth sailing. Therefore, either he failed or he succeeded quickly, there was no other way. Chapter 534. Chu Tian occupied the camp with the 18 divine servants and the little fox as the vanguard, expanding everywhere. In just a week, he controlled 10 purgatory world villages and there were at least 20,000 low-grade demons serving him. Sometimes Chu Tian liked the purgatory world quite a bit. If they had the strength, they would fight. If they couldn't win, they would surrender. There was no hesitation, no honor, no loyalty. As long as they were stronger, everything they did was natural. The law of the strong preying on the weak was already deeply embedded in the soul of every purgatory world native. In the eyes of the purgatory world people, the weak had to obey the strong. So what was the difference between obeying you and obeying them? Therefore, once the purgatory world natives felt the threat of extinction, no matter which power they belonged to, they would immediately fall to the side that was threatening them. According to the rules of the purgatory world, those who submitted were exempt from the flames of war. Only then would there be a large battle between two competitors. If this was the continent, how could it be this smooth to invade and expand like this? The Eagle Burial Kingdom had already unified the surrounding areas. Great leader, these are the newest spoils of war. Bai Dai respectfully stood in front of Chu Tian. She gently waved her hand and 10 snow-white-skinned, sexy young butterfly demons slowly floated in. Each one of them was holding a large pile of things. There were crystals, precious medicines, and all kinds of treasures, as well as specialties of the purgatory world that Chu Tian had never seen before. Chu Tian carefully searched inside and picked out several precious level 3 sacred herbs, as well as some precious materials from the purgatory world. In the middle of the large pile of spoils of war, there was actually a flame in a crystal bottle. This was not a normal flame, it didn't need any fuel to keep burning. The surrounding spiritual energy was gathered inside, as if it could be used to cultivate. Bai Dai explained, reporting to the great leader, this is an earth core true flame seed. The purgatory world was a deep underground world, surrounded by volcanoes and lava lakes that had existed for hundreds of millions of years. This kind of environment could give birth to a heaven and earth spirit flame. The true earth core flame was not inferior to the netherworld ghost flame, but this was a true yang flame with a very high temperature. It was not the same as the netherworld ghost flame. Not to mention it was just a flame seed, with the netherworld flame's current evolution, there was no meaning in swallowing it. This was a good fire seed. I can't waste it. Chu Tian thought of Nangong Yun's fire source spirit. Although her innate divine phoenix flame was not inferior to the world's spirit flames, the phoenix's flame was suitable for nirvana rebirth. If she could refine a fierce yang flame, then her battle strength would increase by a large margin. Alright, let's do that. Chu Tian put away the fire seed and glanced at the other items. I don't need anything else. You can take it and share it with the others. Thank you, great leader. Thank you. Bai Dai was so excited she almost kowtowed to Chu Tian. This great leader was mysterious. No matter how one looked at it, his background was not simple. The value of this pile of spoils could be said to be extremely high. At the very least, it was an unimaginable amount of wealth for any lone cultivator. Even individuals from large factions would be greatly tempted. The great leader did not even look at it. He just casually picked out a few useful items and gave the rest to his subordinates. This kind of extravagant behavior was not something a normal person could have. If you properly help me, there will be no lack of benefits. Chu Tian suddenly thought of something, the information I want, have you prepared it for me? I don't dare forget the great leader's orders. The butterfly demons brought in several large boxes and each box was filled with black jade slips. Chu Tian casually opened one of them and saw a large amount of symbols and annotations in the demon language. This was the information on alchemy that Chu Tian wanted. Not bad, it's very helpful to me. You've done very well. Working for the great leader is our honor. When Bai Dai said this, she suddenly asked in a probing manner, these 10 clansmen are the butterfly demons with the noblest bloodlines in our village. They are willing to offer themselves to the great leader and serve the great leader's needs. Chu Tian was a bit stunned. The butterfly demons had many characteristics of a different race, but they still fit the human aesthetic. They had butterfly-like wings, demon-like tails, pointed ears, and unbelievably white skin, adding a bit of a different race's charm. In a human country, there were probably many nobles that liked this. Bai Dai said in an undisguised enticement voice, the butterfly demons are all sincerely loyal to the great leader. As long as the great leader needs us, any one of us can serve you, including me. I appreciate your good intentions, but I'm very busy right now. You can all leave. Yes, yes. Bai Dai and the other butterfly demons were a bit disappointed. But since Chu Tian did not need them, they could only give up for now. It wasn't that Chu Tian did not like beauties. On one hand, Chu Tian had enough beauties by his side, and on the other hand, Chu Tian did not have a good impression of the demon race beauties. The demon race and the dark race were fickle races. Don't look at how they were respectful and obedient to Chu Tian right now. This was built on the foundation that Chu Tian was strong enough. If an even stronger person appeared and defeated Chu Tian, the previously loyal subordinates would not hesitate to change sides, and they might even stomp on them a few times when they left. Whether it was against threats or temptations, the demon race could not be relied on. Although there were exceptions to each race, in general, the demon race was a group of snobbish and despicable people. Chu Tian only needed to use force and benefits to control them. There was no need to invest his energy and emotions because the latter did not have any value. Chu Tian used the Purgatory World materials to refine several pills. The Purgatory World medicines were cheaper than the Forest of Chaos. Perhaps it was because the materials were cheap that the low-grade demons in the villages had a pretty good average strength. The Purgatory World was truly a good place. Although it was very large, most of it was uninhabitable. Therefore, the entire Purgatory World did not have a lot of people. It couldn't compare to an empire on the continent. But because of the large amount of unexcavated areas, the Purgatory World was filled with unknown treasures. Developing a power here was based on this consideration. Chu Tian swallowed the pills and felt his spirit energy become a bit stronger. Breaking into the fifth true spirit realm was just around the corner, so he picked up the books on alchemy from the tyrant barracks. Actually, Chu Tian had studied alchemy a bit, but alchemy no longer existed in the future. It was like the witchcraft of the shamans, it had already disappeared from history. Of course, according to what Chu Tian knew, the true demonic alchemy came from the abyss world. When the humans opened the planar era, their source energy technology had already reached the peak. Although they came into contact with demonic alchemy in the abyss, they didn't place it in their eyes, and there were very few scholars that studied it. Chu Tian was a great sage in the field of source energy technology, but no matter how much knowledge he had in his head, without enough time and experience, it was impossible to recreate that golden age. Not to mention that civilizations developed differently. Under the influence of the space-time butterfly Chu Tian, even if the continent had enough time, it would be impossible to recreate the same civilization. The current Chu Tian needed to absorb more knowledge and culture to create a unique new era. Reporting to the great leader. The winged demon leader quickly charged in. Didn't I say not to disturb me? Chu Tian was studying the alchemy books when he was suddenly interrupted. He couldn't help feeling a bit unhappy. What is going on? The winged demon quickly respectfully said, Great leader, we've made progress in finding the spatial crystals you were looking for. Could it be you found it? It can't be considered finding it, but we've found a mine. It's a spatial crystal mine. Spatial crystal mine? Chu Tian revealed a look of disbelief. Are you sure? We don't dare lie to the great leader, it really is a spatial crystal mine. Only it won't be easy to mine this mine. Chu Tian didn't even think about it. Let's go, bring me to have a look. Spatial materials were one of the rarest materials on the continent. As long as it contained spatial energy, no matter what level it was precious. In order to build the transport towers, Miracle City had to gather spatial crystals everywhere. In the end, they had to cooperate with the elves and build several transport towers in the Forest of Chaos, mainly completing the elves' transport network. Miracle City and Miracle Commerce still needed a large amount of spatial crystals. Even the elves couldn't take out a few spatial crystals now, so it was even harder for Miracle Commerce to increase the number of transport towers. Now there was actually someone who found a spatial crystal mine in front of Chu Tian. How could Chu Tian not be shocked? Chu Tian left the tyrant barracks with the winged demon and arrived at his destination in just 2 hours. The winged demon leader pointed above him and said, "Great leader, look, this is the spatial crystal mine." Spatial ore was different from normal ore veins. They were not nurtured by the earth, but by space. Therefore, spatial ore veins could appear in any place. Outer space, deep abyss, and certain special environments were more common. Their forms were also different from normal ore veins. When Chu Tian approached this area, he could feel that the spatial fluctuations here were very chaotic and there was a high chance there were spatial cracks. When he looked up in the direction the winged demon was pointing, there were many sparkling crystals floating in the sky. These are just the ones that are exposed on the outside. It's said that there is a mysterious demon beast living inside the true spatial vein. Anyone that has seen it has never been able to escape. The winged demon flew up to a spatial ore. When he reached out to grab it, his hand passed right through it. It was as if he had only touched an illusory image. "Big leader, look. Even though these are floating outside, I'm afraid that ordinary people can't casually obtain them." Spatial ores did exist. This was 100% confirmed by the spatial fluctuations around it. The reason why the winged demon couldn't grab the ore was because the ore contained spatial energy that caused spatial refraction. Actually, the ore wasn't in this place, it could be refracted from another place, or it could be like a void-escaping cultivation technique, being in a different spatial plane. Therefore, it was very hard to mine this ore. Chapter 535. These ores were filled with precious spatial crystals, but not everyone had the ability to excavate them, otherwise would they even have a chance. When Chu Tian stood in the middle of the countless spatial ores, his divine sense could feel the changes in the energy around the spatial crystal ores. The energy released by each crystal was unstable. Although it looked like it wasn't moving, the space was changing every second. Even his divine sense found it hard to pinpoint the exact location. This state was very similar to the void escaping state. Once the Mahayana void escaping was used, it would produce a similar effect. Not only would normal attacks be ineffective, even spiritual attacks would be greatly reduced. Of course, the void escaping was not completely invincible. This was because the essence of any spatial ability within the void escaping was a process of controlling space. The energy used to control space was related to interference. For example, a person using space to teleport in a normal environment would consume a different amount of energy compared to teleporting in water. Air was lighter and weaker, it had less interference to controlling space, therefore it consumed less energy to teleport. Water was heavier and it had more interference to controlling space, therefore it consumed more energy to control space in water. This meant that with enough energy and density, it could create spatial resistance. Therefore, if an opponent was too strong, they could use normal attacks to restrain the void escaping state. The same reasoning was also applicable here. Chu Tian only needed to create a strong enough mining device or energy field and these spatial crystals would all return to the main material plane, allowing them to be easily mined. This was not easy. At least it was impossible with the Purgatory World's technology, which was why this spatial ore hadn't been mined yet. If Chu Tian could connect the Purgatory World to Miracle City, it should be possible with Miracle City's technology. The winged demon leader saw that Chu Tian was deep in thought and his heart was a bit hesitant. He carefully asked, "If this mine has no value, we can still find another one." "No, it is still useful, we just can't mine it for now." Chu Tian said this before asking, "You said that there is a mysterious demon beast in this spatial region, where is it?" The winged demon leader's face fell when he heard this. "Great leader, this beast is very strong and no one can survive after seeing it. We don't know anything about it, so great leader shouldn't take this risk." "Really?" Chu Tian was not frightened at all. "Then I want to see it even more. Take me there immediately." The winged demons looked at each other. The great leader was truly skilled and daring. The winged demon had no choice but to brace himself and bring Chu Tian to the forbidden area. This demonic beast's territory is just ahead. There's no accurate information about its origin and appearance. It only exists in the legends of the nearby villages. Chu Tian focused his gaze on the area, but his vision was obscured by a hazy fog. This was not an ordinary fog, as even Chu Tian's spiritual consciousness could not explore it. This fog was formed by countless subtle spatial fluctuations. If Chu Tian did not guess wrong, then this was the location of the spatial crack. "You guys stand guard outside. I'll go in and take a look." This, Chu Tian wasn't going to negotiate with them. He leaped up like a light feather, disregarding the law of gravity. He rose from the ground at a constant speed and finally pounced into the fog. In an instant, Chu Tian felt like his divine sense had been completely blocked. There was nothing he could do about this. Every particle in the surrounding space came from the crack, so they all contained unstable spatial energy fluctuations. Once his divine sense was released, it would be shaken by the spatial particles and scattered into different layers of space. His divine sense could not cover an area for a long time and could not spread to a wider area. Chu Tian was no different from a blind person in this kind of environment. Whether it was his naked eye or divine sense, they were all blocked. If he didn't have a sense of direction in this chaotic space area, he would never be able to find the spatial crack. "Fox, how is it on your side?" The little fox's divine eyes were filled with white fog. It blew at it and rubbed it with its claws, but the result was still the same. It never thought that even the divine eyes could not be used. "Forget it." Chu Tian's eyes gradually turned white. With the demon and god 9 transformations, he could use his spatial energy. This made Chu Tian's perception of space even more exquisite. He could feel the direction the spatial turbulence was coming from and he could determine the location of the spatial crack. "It's here." Chu Tian brought the little fox to slowly swim in a certain direction. The spatial rift continued to release streams of particles. Each particle contains spatial energy. In fact, the time that a particle could exist in a space was very short because the unstable spatial energy would quickly be released and decayed. However, it was precisely because of this that the closer one was to the spatial rift, the more intense the spatial energy would be. Chu Tian gradually felt a kind of splitting feeling. This was not an ordinary feeling of being cut. From top to bottom, from inside to outside, almost every part of his body, even every cell, seemed to be being cut by an invisible saw. This place was already very close to the spatial crack. It was because of this that the spatial particles were strong enough to disturb matter. If it wasn't for the fact that Chu Tian cultivated the starlight immortal body and had a strong recovery ability, perhaps he would have already been torn apart by the millions of spatial particles. If Chu Tian was like this, it was no wonder no one was willing to develop this place. Void escaping. Chu Tian entered the void to avoid most of the spatial vibrations, to avoid being injured or being torn apart. The spatial turbulence in front of us is even stronger. Chu Tian's white eyes revealed a slight ripple. "Fox, prepare yourself. We'll charge into the spatial crack in one go." The little fox nodded and immediately grabbed onto Chu Tian. Chu Tian's void escaping could pull objects around him into a void state. This ability was suitable for inanimate objects, but the little fox was special. It could actively merge with Chu Tian's ability, so when Chu Tian used the void escaping, the little fox was in the same state. "It's starting." Chu Tian suddenly teleported several hundred meters away. When Chu Tian reappeared, he was surrounded by distorted space. Under the impact of the space particle flow, it was like the air was being roasted by a high temperature. The degree of distortion was several times more severe. He could only teleport to this place. Because the energy in front of him was too strong, Chu Tian couldn't control space. However, when he reached Chu Tian's current position, he could see the distorted space as he looked up. There was a vortex that was moving towards the glowing area. This area was the spatial crack. Large amounts of spatial particles seemed like they were going to pass through the void, escaping and hit his body. Chu Tian knew he didn't have much time left, so he gathered all his energy at his fingertips and a large amount of energy suddenly erupted. Phaseless sword. That twisted space was suddenly blocked by a force. Chu Tian's sword strike was actually able to split apart the spatial turbulence. Chu Tian took this opportunity to jump up. Taking advantage of the fact that the turbulence hadn't recovered yet, he finally successfully landed in a mirror-like area. His entire body melted into this spatial energy mirror. We did it. Chu Tian took out a true elemental pill and quickly recovered his consumed spirit energy. So dangerous, I was almost torn to pieces. Chu Tian smoothly came in, but his body was covered in wounds. They were all caused by the corrosion of the spatial energy. Chu Tian didn't care about these injuries. His eyes turned green and he switched to his life attribute, quickly turning the spirit energy in his body into life energy. In less than 5 minutes, his wounds were completely healed. The true elemental pill that young miss prepared for me is really good. Chu Tian took out another pill and threw it into his mouth. This time I'll go back and get another 20 bottles. This was the space connected to the spatial crack, a natural subspace. The subspace was attached to the main space, but it was also an independent spatial domain. Miracle Commerce's space warehouse used a subspace, but the subspace could not contain spiritual energy or souls. Therefore, most living beings and even undead could not enter. The special thing about this subspace was that it was large enough. A crack connected this large subspace to the main material plane, allowing the matter and energy from the main space to enter. Therefore, this subspace had become a branch of the main space, completely fusing with the laws of the main space, so there was no difference. Spatial crystals. They were all spatial crystals. When Chu Tian looked around, he saw that in this space, there were giant rocks that were floating like small mountains. Each giant rock was covered in large amounts of white spatial energy fluctuations. This was the matter of the main space being sucked in and combining with the spatial energy, finally accumulating into thousands of these giant ores. This was great. He wouldn't have to worry about not having spatial crystals to use in the future. When Chu Tian floated up to check the quality of the spatial crystals, the little fox suddenly felt something dangerous. It immediately gave a sharp warning cry to Chu Tian. The surrounding spatial energy seemed to form a fist. Chu Tian's pupils slightly trembled. He was in the center of this invisible fist, and as long as this fist came down, Chu Tian would be crushed into a meat patty by the spatial energy. Teleportation. Chu Tian used a spatial movement to escape. There was a beast-like roar that came from this space. It was dignified and filled with anger, just like a god being provoked by a blasphemer. Chu Tian knew what this was. It had to be the monster the winged demons were talking about. Chu Tian touched the transport scroll at his waist. The scroll could still sense Miracle City's spatial coordinates, which allowed Chu Tian to have no worries. Come out if you have the skills. Don't hide and use dirty tricks, you're just like a little girl. Chu Tian believed that this being was very strong. Since it had this kind of strength, its intelligence wouldn't be low, so it wouldn't be able to not understand Chu Tian's provocation. Chapter 536. Just as his voice faded, spatial energy rippled. Chu Tian clearly felt a claw emerge from the void. In fact, this claw was still very far away from Chu Tian, and no one would associate it with danger. However, Chu Tian could clearly feel that the moment this claw appeared, it immediately set off a spatial energy flow. This claw did not have any offensive power, but it was able to set off a wave of spatial attacks. The moment Chu Tian hurriedly dodged, several distorted spatial trajectories appeared in midair. A huge stone mountain was cut open, soundlessly divided into several sections. The cut was incomparably smooth, and the whole process was even more silent. It was as if what had been cut open was not an incomparably strong crystal containing powerful energy, but a feather, or a piece of thin paper. So dangerous. If he had been half a second slower in dodging, Chu Tian would have been torn to pieces. This attack was not a direct energy bombardment, but a spatial-level attack. It was incomparably sharp and tyrannical. From this point, it could be determined that this magical beast hiding in the spatial crack must be a very rare spatial magical beast. How rare was spatial talent? Magical beasts with innate spatial talent were even rarer. Chu Tian had no time to think about it. An intense aura of danger once again assaulted him. This time, it was a powerful spatial attack. When Chu Tian successfully dodged it again, a spatial ripple appeared behind him, as if a large stone had been thrown into the water of space. A large number of cracks spread out in space. Wherever the cracks passed, space would shatter. In front of spatial energy, even space itself was fragile. Although he could repeatedly perceive the incoming attacks, he was unable to detect the other party's existence. If Chu Tian had guessed correctly, this magical beast must have used a spatial method to hide. It seemed to be very cautious and careful, and even the most brilliant of detection techniques would find it difficult to find it, because it was not in this space at all. If he fought like this, he had no chance of winning. Fortunately, there was no strong space turbulence in the space crack, which allowed Chu Tian to use his divine sense to barely capture this guy's attack trajectory. This was because no matter how well the opponent hid, the moment the attack was launched, there would always be some clues. Chu Tian relied on this to avoid the attack. Not only was this demonic beast powerful, but it also had many ways to attack. It could fail 100 times, but if it succeeded once, it would be enough to kill Chu Tian. Thinking of this, Chu Tian immediately took out a scroll and released the 18 divine servants. As soon as the 18 divine servants appeared, Chu Tian immediately controlled them to charge towards the area where the mysterious magic beast was. Roar! The magical beast let out a low roar and immediately swept out with its claws. The invulnerable bodies of the two divine servants were instantly cut into several pieces like tofu and were sent flying backwards. Chu Tian immediately locked onto the position of the magical beast. He had the other divine servants gather around the magical beast. The magical beast furiously attacked, sending several divine servants flying. Chu Tian analyzed the trajectory of its attacks and narrowed down the area where the magical beast was. The remaining divine servants were covered in netherworld ghost flames as they charged towards where the magical beast was hiding. How could just the netherworld flame be enough? The void beast was hidden in the void, so it couldn't be burned even if it approached. Spatial fluctuations appeared in Chu Tian's white pupils, and at the same time, spatial fluctuations appeared in the middle of the divine servant's encirclement, revealing a vague transparent outline. This was the target of the divine servants this time, and when the divine servants charged forward, pang! They all stopped at the same time. It was like they had hit an invisible wall. The giant demon beast swung its tail and the divine servants were all sent flying. Chu Tian needed this chance. Chu Tian disturbed the space to make the magical beast appear. When the magical beast sent the divine servants flying, even if its body hadn't completely returned, it was almost there. Normal cultivators wouldn't be able to attack it in this state, but it wasn't a problem for Chu Tian. Phaseless Sword Finger. Chu Tian gathered all his spirit energy to send out 2 unstoppable phaseless sword attacks, instantly piercing through the invisible barrier. After the terrifying energy pierced through the spatial barrier, it still landed on the demon beast's body. The demon beast immediately let out a mournful howl and large amounts of transparent crystal flesh flew out. It actually didn't kill it. The two phaseless sword fingers had hit its target, but it didn't hit a vital point. Therefore, the magical beast didn't die and was only heavily injured. It was about to be drawn back into space again, which made Chu Tian's expression change. The reason Chu Tian could attack him this time was because he was relying on the 18 divine servants to attract his attention. This move couldn't be used a second time. This demon beast's intelligence wasn't low, so it wouldn't fall for it again. Not to mention that the divine servants were heavily injured in the battle, so it would take a while for them to recover even if they were undying. Chu Tian's spirit energy had been completely used up by these two phaseless sword fingers. Therefore, once the magical beast entered space again, Chu Tian wouldn't have any chance of winning. AO. The little fox jumped out at the critical moment and turned into a demon fox that was several meters tall. Four thick and large tails swayed behind its back and there was an ancient and mysterious aura coming from its body. A pair of dark green demon fox eyes flashed with a strange light. The little fox had already cultivated 4 tails and it seemed like its cultivation was quite strong. The mysterious demon beast that was about to enter space trembled. It was frozen. Chu Tian never thought that the little fox would grow to this degree. Even if this demon beast wasn't a level 4 demon beast, it was still a peak level 3 demon beast. Its danger and killing power were higher than a level 4 demon beast. This kind of powerful demon beast was actually frozen by the little fox. How could he let go of this chance? Chu Tian swallowed a pure spirit pill to recover his spirit energy before sending out another phaseless sword finger. This time it pierced into the monster's head and it split its head in half with an unstoppable force. This mysterious magical beast did not even have the time to let out a mournful cry before it was killed in such an inexplicable manner. He never thought that this dangerous demon beast would be killed this easily. The little fox's contribution this time couldn't be ignored. If it wasn't for the demon beast being frozen at the critical moment, Chu Tian wouldn't have had the chance to kill it. Just what is this thing? This demon beast's body was as transparent as crystal and it was covered in fine scales. Each piece was a high-quality spatial material and Chu Tian felt that if he peeled off these scales, he would be able to make a high-quality defensive equipment. Other than that, this demon beast's claws, teeth, and flesh were all rare materials. This seems to be a demonic beast's inner core. Chu Tian took out a round thing. Although Chu Tian didn't know what this demon beast was called, Chu Tian could tell what a demon beast's beast crystal was and what a demonic beast's inner core was. Demon beasts and demonic beasts were different concepts. Demon beasts had a fixed population and reproduction method, but demonic beasts relied on continuous evolution. Even a blade of grass, a tree, or a small animal could become a demonic beast. Demonic beasts had a stronger growth rate than demon beasts and the little fox was also a demonic beast in some sense. A demon beast's beast crystal was the source of a demon beast's energy. It was like a reservoir that could store water for when needed. A demonic beast's inner core was the essence of a demonic beast's cultivation. This essence did not just include the source energy, it also included the essence of the demonic beast, which could be directly absorbed by people. Demonic beasts were very rare. Not to mention spatial demonic beasts. A demonic beast's inner core would quickly lose its effect when the demonic beast died. Chu Tian didn't want this precious inner core to become obsolete, so he flew to the top of a mountain and sat down. He began to absorb the source energy from the inner core. Chu Tian learned from the inner core that this demon beast was called a void beast. The void beast had no parents, it was a pre-celestial demonic beast formed in a special environment. The void beast could travel through different spaces and eat spatial crystals. A mature void beast was at least a 4th level and the one Chu Tian met wasn't even mature yet. The void beast's inner core was a very precious thing. Not only did it contain the void beast's life essence, it also contained many ancient memories of the void beast. Chu Tian absorbing the Niden of the void beast would not only be of great help to his cultivation, but it would also strengthen his spatial innate talent and spatial ability. It would have an important effect. After a few days, The entire space shook a few times. Chu Tian's cultivation had broken through to the 5th true spirit layer, and his attainments in the phaseless sword and void escaping had increased by a large amount. Just because Chu Tian had killed a void beast, his strength had increased by several times. This really is a good place. Chu Tian looked around. The most precious thing was that he could still sense Miracle City's spatial coordinates. If we could build a transport tower here, it would be equal to having a natural refuge. The spatial turbulence at the spatial crack was too strong. Even a peak 9th true spirit layer expert wouldn't be able to reach the spatial crack. What did this mean? This meant that even if the army approached, the army couldn't attack. No matter how many people there were or how strong their momentum was, as long as Miracle Commerce guarded the spatial entrance, all threats would disappear. After estimating the space's volume, this space was several dozen kilometers in length and width. He didn't calculate the depth, but it was around 100 kilometers. There was a way to build a large city with over 1 million people here. But a city couldn't be built in one go. Since Chu Tian had already occupied this place, he wasn't in a rush. He first left the space after suffering a lot, but when Chu Tian appeared, he was immediately surrounded by the butterfly demons and winged demons. Do you have anything to report? This is bad, great leader. Darkness City has already sent people to the Tyrant Barracks. If we can't solve this crisis, the Tyrant Barracks won't be able to hold on. Is that so? What will come will come. Let's go take a look. Chu Tian had been in the limelight recently. It would be strange if he didn't attract Darkness City's attention like this. They only came now, so Chu Tian should be glad. Chapter 537. Chu Tian quickly rushed over to the Tyrant Barracks and was stunned by what he saw. Don't move. Tens of thousands of Darkness City soldiers were gathered in front of him, raising their bows one by one. The arrows were like a forest of arrows, all aimed at Chu Tian. Fuck. What the hell? Even if Chu Tian knew that Darkness City would send quite a few people, he never thought there would be this many. The Tyrant Barracks must have been filled with panic. The demons and dark races didn't have any loyalty, so if Darkness City threw out a surrender condition to rebel, they would even hide the size of the other side when they notified Chu Tian. They hoped that Chu Tian would come back and fall into their trap. Like this, they wouldn't have to choose between the two sides. Damn, the situation was much more serious than he imagined. Darkness City's army was this big. If the two sides fought, they wouldn't have a chance of winning. Chu Tian was escorted to the Tyrant Barracks by the Darkness City soldiers. Among the countless powerful dark race soldiers, he finally saw the leader. You are the new leader of the Tyrant Barracks? A demon that was around 2 meters tall with a pair of wings on his back and a long horn on his head was currently looking at Chu Tian with a pair of purple eyes. You aren't a purgatory person, yet you dare act wildly in the purgatory world. A black demon. The black demon's full name was Darkness Demon. This was the most common demon among the high-grade demons. It originated from the Abyss world and developed in the Purgatory world for some reason. It was estimated that they were the strongest and largest demon race in the Purgatory world. Chu Tian gave a calm smile to the black demon. Don't be nervous, who cares about the Tyrant Barracks? The Tyrant Barracks will be under my control. I believe it will bring more value to Darkness City. Humph, Darkness City can't tolerate an unruly fellow. Not to mention that your background is strange, we suspect you are a spy from outside. The black demon suddenly stood up and loudly shouted, tie him up and bring him back to Darkness City. The experts surrounding him were about to make a move. Wait. Isn't it just Darkness City? Chu Tian raised his hand. I can leave on my own. You don't have to do anything. But I have one condition. Before I return, no one is allowed to touch the Tyrant encampment. The black demon coldly said, do you think you have the qualifications to negotiate? Chu Tian narrowed his eyes and looked at the other party. His divine sense suddenly descended on black demon, causing him to feel refreshed. He could keenly sense that Chu Tian's cultivation was not particularly strong, but if he wanted to get rid of him, it might not be too difficult. This foreign race might not be able to escape from the encirclement, but if they were to retaliate strongly, they might cause a lot of casualties. In any case, the main goal of this trip was to bring this person back. The less trouble, the better. We aren't interested in who this camp belongs to. Let's go. The reason why Chu Tian was this obedient this time was not because Chu Tian had a sudden change in personality. It was because Chu Tian understood that he could deal with a few hundred or 1,000 people, but if he wanted to fight against an entire purgatory army, he definitely wasn't qualified. It was easy for Chu Tian to escape, but once he escaped, the tyrant barracks would fall. Wouldn't his efforts over the past few days be wasted? Since it was like this, he might as well try his luck in Darkness City. Chu Tian believed that with his eloquence and ability, as well as the price he could offer, he might be able to convince Darkness City. A little impatience spoils great plans, so he might as well make a trip with them. Darkness City was only 200 miles away from the Tyrant Barracks, and the entire city was built inside a giant dark volcano. The dark volcano was a volcano with dark energy, so it was possible that there was some dark energy mixed into the volcano, turning the lava into a strange purple-black color. Although this was an active volcano, the dark elements could absorb the volcano's energy, preventing it from erupting. This purple-black lava didn't look hot, but the energy it contained was much stronger than normal lava. Darkness City's craftsmen used the active volcano as the foundation to construct Darkness City's barrier. It was probably because these demons hadn't thought of how to deal with Chu Tian, therefore after Chu Tian was locked up for a few hours, he was sent to a demon palace floating in the middle of a lake of purple-black lava. Go in for me. The demons were an evil and artistic group. Chu Tian was very interested in this purgatory-style palace. His eyes gradually gathered on the main hall. The city lord's throne was empty, it seemed like the city lord didn't come. Chu Tian didn't care too much about this, his eyes were attracted by the person in the vice city lord's seat. This was a demon that was 80 to 90% similar to a human. She had gray hair that reached her waist, with two small demon horns sticking out of her head. Her skin was snow-white and smooth, almost like it could be broken with a single blow. She had bright red lips and a pair of dark red eyes that were filled with a magical charm. She didn't have any clothes on her body and most of her chest was exposed. A triangular pair of shorts couldn't cover her round buttocks and her long legs took up 2/3 of her body. She was wearing a pair of leather boots and she was sitting on the throne in a casual manner, but it was also filled with provocation. Succubus? A rare high-grade demon species. Human. A captivating voice came from the high seat. Although it was the most normal tone, it could make any living being's heart itch, like it was seducing or hinting, a human from the surface world, why would they appear in the purgatory world? He finally met someone who knew a human. This saved Chu Tian a lot of trouble. This was because anyone with a bit of a brain would know that humans didn't like the purgatory world that was filled with volcanoes, demons, dark races, evil substances, and sulfur. Moreover, humans were very far away from the purgatory world, so they shouldn't have any interest in the purgatory world. Chu Tian said, I am just an explorer. Because I obtained an ancient map to the purgatory world, I came here out of curiosity, so you don't need to be on guard against me. Explorer. The succubus revealed a smile that was filled with charm. She stuck out her blood-red tongue and licked her lips. Do you know that the last person who lied to me was skinned by me in the end and burned for several days in the dark flame before dying? Chu Tian's mental fortitude was very strong. Whether Sir believes me or not, I am an explorer who likes to travel the world. I have no other identity and will not pose any threat to Darkness City. I have many techniques you can't think of, if we cooperate. He didn't even finish. Chu Tian's body slightly trembled. The succubus' dark red eyes seemed to release a strong power that instantly captured Chu Tian's mind. Chu Tian realized that this was a very strong divine sense control technique. The succubus didn't have a vision domain divine sense, but because of her race's innate talent, she could easily control opponents stronger than her. Chu Tian didn't know how strong this succubus was, but it seemed like she was in the 8th to 9th true spirit layer, otherwise how could she become the vice city lord of Purgatory City? Once she used her charm with this kind of strength, no one in the true spirit realm could resist her. No matter who the other side was, as long as they fell into the succubus trap, they would be completely controlled by the succubus. Even if it was a mountain of blades or a sea of flames, they wouldn't hesitate. Why would they need to worry about not obtaining true information? This time, the succubus was going to be disappointed. The charm technique, which had always been successful, only caused him to lose focus for a moment. The succubus' expression slightly changed. She changed her sitting position and revealed a serious expression. At this time, a voice came from outside. Meiji, stop. A young dark elf walked in. When Chu Tian saw this dark elf, he was a bit stunned. He never thought that this fellow would come here. This dark elf was no one else, it was the fellow Chu Tian saved in the subterranean world. This succubus named Meiji looked at the young dark elf and said, "So it's young city lord Shadow. How do you know him?" The dark elf Shadow replied, "This person claims to be a city lord of a surface city and it was him who saved me in Nikello City, allowing me to proudly bring the information of the subterranean world's invasion back to the purgatory world. Although his true identity needs to be investigated, I don't think he's a spy." Chu Tian guessed that with this dark elf's age and strength, he wasn't a simple person in the purgatory world. However, what made Chu Tian a bit surprised was that this dark elf was the son of Darkness City's city lord. Not a spy. So what if he's not a spy? He's been breaking the rules with a group of low-grade demons recently, acting recklessly. Just based on this point, we can't easily forgive him. The succubus voice was very gentle, but it didn't hold back at all, not to mention that anyone that dares deceive me can only die. Did this female demon have a psychological problem because she was tricked into giving her a lollipop when she was 3? When Chu Tian was about to speak, Shadow said first, "Meiji, although the demons you lead are an important force for Darkness City is ruled by us dark elves, you can't kill people that can help Darkness City." Meiji revealed a smile. "Tell me, how can he help Darkness City? This person's strength isn't weak and he has many abilities, this is rare in the purgatory world." Shadow said this and then suddenly paused. "The Devil's Gate's ruins are about to open, we need this kind of person to explore. One more person is one more, it will increase the chances of my father's injuries being healed." "You actually want him to participate in the competition for the ruins?" Meiji suddenly stood up. "What makes you think you can make this kind of decision? Each city has a limited number of spots to participate in the Devil's Gate's ruins, you actually want to give a spot to an outsider." Shadow didn't back down at all. "This person saved over 1 million people in the purgatory world, I think with his contributions to Darkness City and the purgatory world, he has the qualifications to participate. Not to mention the fact that his participation will increase our chances by a lot. Father's injuries are this serious, there is no time, we need to find a high-grade level 3 immortal herb as soon as possible." Chapter 538. Level 3 Immortal Herb. And high grade. This request was too high. Immortal herbs could only be found, not to mention a high-grade one. But this dark elf named Shadow was very confident that he could find this kind of treasure in the ruins, only he didn't have the ability to take it. This meant that the ruins weren't simple. Like this, Chu Tian was a bit interested. Meiji firmly disagreed. The Devil's Gate opened once every few years and it was very rare each time. The ruins in the Devil's Gate were public areas and the surrounding purgatory world cities had the right to explore, but there were only 5-6 spots. This kind of opportunity was a large opportunity for everyone. If they gave a spot to a human, wouldn't Darkness City suffer a large loss? The most important thing was that even if Meiji felt that this human wasn't weak, his cultivation was only in the 4th to 5th true spirit layer, it wasn't strong enough to make her take notice of him. Each participant of the Devil's Gate was an expert of the purgatory world, they at least had the strength of the spirit transformation realm. I have a suggestion. Chu Tian felt that he had to fight for himself. Since this Vice City Lord doesn't believe in my strength, why don't you find a participant to compete with me? Meiji's eyes were stunned. Compete? That's right, who is strong and who is weak, we'll know with a fight. Chu Tian looked very relaxed, like this decision wasn't that hard for him. If I win, I'll help you get the herb. If I lose, you don't need to waste a precious spot on me. What do you think? Shadow slightly knit his brows. He liked Chu Tian's ability and not his battle strength. Chu Tian taking the initiative to propose a competition was very disadvantageous for him. Meiji thought about it before nodding. All right, I'll give you this chance. If you can defeat one, you'll have the right to participate in the Devil's Gate trial. After a few minutes. Purple-black lava lake. This was an area of Darkness City. The lava lake didn't release any heat because the energy was locked inside, so there wasn't a trace of heat here. However, once one fell into the purple-black lava, not even their bones would remain. The surface of the dark lava lake was covered with black reefs of various sizes. This was the place where Chu Tian was dueling. Chu Tian sized up his opponent. It was a dark demon with a sturdy body. The age of this race couldn't be determined by their appearance, but it could be roughly determined by the demon horns on their heads. Judging from the dark devil's horns, it was at least 500 years old. Based on the aura the dark demon was releasing, it should be around the peak 7th true spirit layer, a genuine spirit transformation cultivator. Meiji and Shadow watched from the side. Ying's brows were tightly knitted. Darkness City was mainly controlled by two powers. One of them was the dark race represented by the Dark Elves, which made up around 2/3 of Darkness City's power. The other was the demon race led by the Vice City Lord Meiji. This dark demon commander that was dueling Chu Tian was actually one of Meiji's two most powerful subordinates. Even if Ying personally fought him, he only had a 50% chance of winning. This human from the surface world was not ordinary, but his cultivation was too weak in the end. His cultivation was too far from the dark demon commanders and humans weren't as good at fighting as demons, so his chances of winning this duel were very small. Meiji and Shadow were very different, they were just watching this duel like they were watching a play. A little human that was accidentally brought in from the surface world, could he really fight against the dark demon commander under her? This was simply like a fantasy story. We don't have time to waste here. Meiji directly announced, take care of it in 10 moves. Understood, Vice City Lord. The dark demon commander's giant demon wings suddenly flapped and before Chu Tian could react, the purple-black lava around him surged out, forming giant pythons that were over 10 meters long. They twisted around each other and directly swallowed Chu Tian. He couldn't even take a single hit. Then this battle was just too boring. When the dark demon commander had this thought, he suddenly felt something. When he looked up, he saw that Chu Tian had dodged the attack at an unknown time and had moved above him without anyone noticing. Meiji had seen everything since her 9th true spirit layer cultivation was not just for show. She revealed a slightly surprised expression, teleportation. Innate spatial energy. Although I don't know this human's background. Shadow found that Chu Tian was even more proficient and faster in controlling space, but one thing is certain, this human doesn't just have an innate spatial energy, he has even more abilities than I imagined. The dark demon commander saw that Chu Tian had dodged his attack and his fierce face revealed a smile, it's only fun if you have some skills. While they were talking, the dark demon commander's hands formed an ancient and complex seal that entered the giant pillar made of lava pythons. In just a second, the lava pillar turned into a flood dragon that bared its fangs and claws. This flood dragon made of dark lava and the dark demon's secret technique had a strong destructive might, as it charged down at Chu Tian. This time Chu Tian did not dodge or retreat. His arms were raised high into the air like he was hugging, as he threw himself at this terrifying flood dragon. Seeking death. Since he was seeking death, was there a reason to show mercy? This flood dragon filled with terrifying energy slammed into Chu Tian, but an unbelievable scene occurred. When the head of the giant lava dragon made contact with Chu Tian, it was immediately turned into black crystals. The crystal continued to spread, from head to neck, all the way to the rest of his body. Finally the entire flood dragon formed from dark lava turned into a stone dragon. Energy. Energy has been swallowed. The succubus revealed a look of disbelief. Chu Tian's eyes were jet black, but it was not a normal color. Rather it was bottomless, like a black hole. Chu Tian's body was like a black hole. When he made contact with the flood dragon, he instantly absorbed all the energy from the flood dragon and absorbed it into himself. At this moment, Chu Tian raised a fist that was releasing a dazzling glow and slammed it into the head of the flood dragon. Energy wildly surged into the flood dragon, and after the flood dragon exploded from head to toe, it finally turned into a giant purple-black fist that flew at the Dark Demon Commander. Good. The Dark Demon Commander gave a low roar and finally released his source spirit. He also sent out a fist, and the two fists collided in the center of the lava lake. The energy that was released created waves in the purple-black lava lake, even covering the surrounding reefs. Chu Tian ignored the lava and directly walked into the lava lake. Each step he took would cause a large area of petrification to appear. Each step he took made the energy around Chu Tian stronger. When he took 6 or 7 steps in a row, behind him was a large area of petrification that seemed like it had been frozen. The energy around Chu Tian was very strong, like several hundred little flood dragons colliding with each other, as if they would explode at any moment. The Dark Demon Commander knew that Chu Tian had a very rare innate swallowing ability. Darkness could swallow all things, and the swallowing ability was a kind of innate darkness ability. It was not an innate elemental ability, but it had a very shocking effect. Chu Tian was absorbing the surrounding energy to condense an energy that even the Dark Demon Commander was afraid of. He couldn't drag this out. He had to end this quickly. The Dark Demon Commander did not know what kind of tricks this brat would play if he gave him enough time, so he decided not to hold back at all. He directly pushed his source spirit and cultivation technique to the peak. The Dark Demon Commander's body suddenly expanded, turning into a giant black demon that was over 10 meters tall. Puchi. This giant demon's feet stepped onto the lava lake, but the dark lava could not harm him at all. Without even half a second of hesitation, this giant figure shot out like an arrow, quickly charging at Chu Tian. Chu Tian's swallowing ability had already reached its peak. Sword. Chu Tian suddenly reached out and grabbed the source spirit's sword. His legs slightly bent and he jumped out. The entire lava lake cracked and large amounts of lava energy was released from the cracks, just like a volcano erupting. The power of the demon god's sword source spirit was fully activated, and it instantly turned into a sword glow. The terrifying destructive might seemed like it was going to pierce a hole in the dome. The moment the sword glow fell down, all the energy around it surged forward to support it. The momentum of this sword slash was like it could cut through mountains and rivers, creating a heaven and earth splitting feeling. There was no fancy move. There was no skill. This was a pure head-on attack, a pure head-on clash. This giant black sword glow slammed into the demon's body, instantly scattering the demon's energy. A terrifying strength wildly slammed into the Dark Demon Commander, sending him several thousand meters away from the lava lake. A deep gully was created in the lava lake, and this gully lasted for over 10 seconds. Victory! Chu Tian had won. This sword could be considered heaven-shaking. Although Chu Tian did not kill him, the Dark Demon Commander could not recover in a short period of time. Therefore, for this Devil's Gate adventure, whether Meiji was willing or not, Chu Tian had already decided to go. Shadow spent quite a bit of effort to come back to his senses. Although I knew he wasn't weak, I never thought he would be this strong. Meiji, you should have nothing to say this time. Humph, I keep my words. Defeating the Dark Demon Commander, naturally I have the qualifications to participate. Meiji felt that Chu Tian's strength was not only this fellow was just too mysterious, but I'll say this first. Since you're using Darkness City's quota, you should contribute to Darkness City. If it was purely for personal gain, I definitely would not let you off. Chu Tian not only wasn't locked up in Darkness City, he had also strangely obtained a chance to explore the ruins. This really was dog shit luck. Chapter 539. In the Darkness Hall, several people preparing to enter the Devil's Gate were gathered together. Other than Meiji, Shadow, and Chu Tian, there was also an old dark elf and a very slow-looking rock demon. Meiji gave a warning before leaving, the city lord is heavily injured and can't participate, so we will be at a clear disadvantage in the Devil's Gate. You have to be careful. This experience is not just an opportunity for you, it is also related to our Darkness City. Yes, Vice City Lord. Human, you don't know anything about the Devil's Gate. Take this information and read as much as you can. It is a great honor for you to enter the Devil's Gate, I hope you won't waste this chance. This fellow's attitude wasn't good. Chu Tian would have already slapped that seductive face with his usual temper. However, Chu Tian did get a free spot this time, so strictly speaking, she wasn't wrong. The Devil's Gate experience was quite precious and Chu Tian didn't have the habit of hitting women, so he didn't care about this demon woman. 5,000 Dark Elven Guards and 5,000 Dark Demon Guards immediately head to the Devil's Gate Canyon. Meiji made the arrangements, after we leave the city, completely seal off Darkness City and be on high alert, to prevent any accidents from happening. Know where we will return. If anything happens to us or if something unexpected happens, call the city lord out of the closed-door training room immediately. Understood. Meiji looked very charming on the surface, but she was actually a very practical person. This was a bit similar to Miracle City's finance minister Dolores. Chu Tian hadn't seen the city lord since he came to Darkness City, but under Meiji's management, Darkness City could be considered very orderly. Let's go. 5,000 Dark Elves and 5,000 Dark Demons, a total of 10,000 Darkness City elites. The succubus Meiji and Shadow personally led them on their journey to the Devil's Gate. Chu Tian looked over the information Meiji gave him. From the information, he could see that there wasn't just a single Devil's Gate, there were Devil's Gates in every area of the Purgatory world. Most of the time, the Devil's Gate was closed and it would only open under certain circumstances. The Devil's Gate was filled with ancient treasures and the sealed space inside the Devil's Gate was filled with ancient fertile land, so there were many heaven and earth treasures. There was no lack of immortal herbs among them. Chu Tian glanced at the record. 160 years ago, the Devil's Gate had opened for the most recent time. Participating in Darkness City's experience this time, just one city alone had brought back several ancient treasures, as well as 9 immortal herbs. No one knew where the Purgatory world's Devil's Gate came from and no one knew what meaning the Devil's Gate had. Some people said that the Devil's Gate was the breeding ground of a strong ancient race, while others thought that the Devil's Gate was hiding a shocking secret that no one knew about, even being related to the formation of the Purgatory world. No matter what the reason was, the Devil's Gate ruins were equal to treasures, therefore it became the target of the Purgatory world's forces. Chu Tian fiercely wiped away his saliva. This was a really good place. However, through the Devil's Gate's description, he recalled something and had some guesses about the Devil's Gate's origins. Could this Devil's Gate be? When Chu Tian knit his brows and thought about this possibility, Meiji, who was leading the way, suddenly said, "We're here." Chu Tian could see an incomparably large energy barrier from afar, covering several dozen miles of space. Even if one was 100 miles away, they could still see it. This barrier should be the so-called Devil's Gate, right? Chu Tian carefully observed it and found that the barrier was not naturally formed. It was made from the earth veins and several hundred volcanoes around it as a foundation, then it was made with a powerful technique. It wasn't simple at all. Even if Chu Tian personally made a move, he would have to spend a large amount of energy to create this kind of large array. Using this kind of good resources to create a large array, it wasn't a difficult matter. The trick of this array was that it wasn't used for defense, rather it was more like a seal. In other words, this array was built in the purgatory world not to stop people from entering, but rather to stop things from coming out. There were many devil's gates in the purgatory world. The many devil's gates formed a large array that covered the purgatory world. How much spiritual energy and essence would this large array seal? How much energy and power would it consume? What kind of thing was it trying to trap? Chu Tian knew this in his heart, but he couldn't say it out loud. Ha, 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 Darkness City, you're too late. When Meiji led the troops into the Devil's Gate Canyon, there were already troops from several Purgatory World cities stationed here. The one speaking was a flame demon. The flame demon was a high-grade demon, a rare half-elemental demon. They used lava as their flesh and flames as their blood, so their heavenly bodies were filled with destructive power. This is Flame Demon City's Vice City Lord, Kildan. Shadow introduced to Chu Tian, Flame Demon City is one of the strongest Purgatory World cities around here. In terms of strength, it is a bit stronger than Darkness City. This Kildan's strength is deep and immeasurable. I think he is even stronger than Meiji. Darkness City has always been this slow. The one speaking this time was a demon on the other side. His figure was covered in a hazy fog and his facial features were unclear, making it hard for people to see his face. It was like he was always covered in a mysterious shadow. Darkness City's City Lord isn't here yet. Could it be that his injuries haven't healed yet? Dark Shadow City's Vice City Lord, the Shadow Demon Zoro. The Shadow Demon race was also a high-grade demon race, possessing an unpredictable and powerful strength. They were the most terrifying assassins in the Purgatory world. Chu Tian looked over the other cities and found that other than the flame demons, shadow demons, and other demons, there were also dark giants and dark spirit beasts. It could be said that all the peak races of the Purgatory world were gathered here. Meiji faced the Shadow Demon Zoro's probing question and revealed a very calm and seductive smile. Thanks to everyone, the City Lord's injuries are no longer serious and he only needs to rest for a few days, so he can't participate in the Devil's Gate Canyon. But speaking of this, your Flame Demon City and Dark Shadow City's City Lords also didn't come to the Devil's Gate Canyon. Why is that? Ha, ha, ha. The flame demon Kildan gave a wild laugh that seemed like it would shake the valley and create a flood of lava. If Darkness City's City Lord doesn't participate, wouldn't our City Lord be taking advantage of you by participating? Our cities control the eastern territory of the Purgatory world, we are all connected, so we won't take advantage of your Darkness City. The Shadow Demon Zoro seemed low-key and gloomy compared to the flame demon Kildan's violence. However, although his voice wasn't loud, it reached everyone's ears. Our City Lord has other things to do, so we agreed that we won't come for this adventure. Meiji knit her brows. Talking about emotions in the Purgatory world was simply a joke. The Devil's Gate ruins only opened once every 100 years, it was impossible for the Purgatory City Lords to give up at the same time. What were they planning? But before Meiji could understand this problem, a dark giant suddenly looked at Chu Tian in the Darkness City group in surprise. It was like he had discovered a new continent. Isn't this the legendary human that lives on the surface? When did your Darkness City have humans? Meiji reluctantly introduced him. This is an adventurer from the surface world, currently a guest elder of Darkness City. Because the City Lord can't enter the Devil's Gate, we added him to make up the numbers. Added him to make up the numbers? Ha, 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 does Darkness City not have anyone? They actually found a human to make up the numbers. These Purgatory locals didn't hide their disdain at all, even breaking out in unrestrained laughter. The people that entered the Devil's Gate were all spirit transformation cultivators, only Chu Tian was only in the 5th true spirit layer. How could these people not look down on him? Meiji was too lazy to explain and didn't want to explain. She had personally seen Chu Tian's strength before. This person's cultivation base wasn't high, but his battle strength was very strong. Moreover, it seemed like he was hiding it. The more these people looked down on him, the more he could be used as a surprise attack at a critical moment. Don't waste time. A dark spirit beast stood up. This race looked like a tiger, leopard, and wolf, and it was much taller than normal spirit beasts. It didn't look like any spirit beast on the continent, so it could be a special dark spirit beast race in the purgatory world. The Devil's Gate's barrier has already weakened to its weakest point. Now is the best time for us to open it. Everyone didn't come here to chat. The flame demon Kil'dan looked at Meiji. Then let's begin. Without any nonsense, each Vice City Lord or City Lord level character took out an ancient stone tablet. When the stone tablets were connected together, they finally formed a perfect disc. Everyone began to chant an incantation. It released the powerful energy contained in the ancient stone disc. The stone disc released a beam of energy onto the Devil's Gate's barrier. Like snow melting in the spring sun, a large hole was slowly corroded into the barrier. Meiji revealed a look of excitement and joy seeing this. The Devil's Gate had already been smoothly opened. This exploration of the ruins was very important to Darkness City, and it was also very important to Meiji. If they could obtain several strong enough immortal herbs, not only would they be able to cure the City Lord's injuries, Meiji's stagnant cultivation would also have room to increase. Chu Tian found that the Devil's Gate was like a whole new world. Even if he hadn't entered yet, Chu Tian could feel the spiritual energy coming from inside. The Devil's Gate was made from the purgatory world's spirit veins and volcanoes. This was indeed a very rare sealed environment. It wasn't strange for immortal herbs to appear here. Now that the gate was open, shouldn't they go in? The Devil's Gate has already been opened. It was clear that it wasn't just Chu Tian who was impatient. Meiji looked over the others and said, "Why don't we go in?" The little fox suddenly felt something. Ta, who was sleeping on his shoulder, immediately stood up and softly called out to Chu Tian a few times. "What did you say?" Chu Tian and the little fox's minds were connected. If the little fox felt something, it would naturally send it to Chu Tian. There's killing intent. Ha, 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 no rush, no rush. The flame demon Kil'dan gave a deep laugh. We have an important matter to do. Meiji was a bit stunned. What matter? The Devil's Gate has been opened. Darkness City's people have no value. The flame demon Kil'dan was laughing loudly a moment ago, but now he was filled with a sinister killing intent. You can all die now. Meiji felt something was wrong when her body suddenly trembled. A long black blade silently pierced into his chest from the back, piercing through his heart with great precision. Chapter 540. Meiji was in the peak 8th true spirit layer no matter what, someone who was half a step into the 9th true spirit layer. This kind of strength was already enough to enter the ranks of first-class experts in the purgatory world. The succubus' close combat strength wasn't strong, but her powerful spiritual energy and divine sense could give her a warning, allowing her to sense danger before it arrived. Meiji was filled with fear, always secretly watching these people. She never thought that someone would sneak attack the chief in a situation where she didn't notice. This attack wasn't as simple as just stabbing a vital point. Zoro released a curse power that made Meiji lose control of her spirit energy. She couldn't condense any power and could only watch her life force disappear. Zoro, you. Meiji knew who dared to attack her the moment she was attacked. Of the experts here, although Kil'dan had the highest cultivation, to have this kind of assassination ability, only Dark Shadow City's Vice City Lord, the Shadow Demon Zoro, could do this. At this moment, Zoro was silently standing behind Meiji. His right hand was holding a gray blade covered in runes, slowly stabbing deeper. The blade was releasing a strong aura of death. "Didn't you want to know where our City Lord went?" Zoro's voice was cold without a trace of emotion. "I'll tell you now. When you came here, Darkness City was already surrounded. Our City Lords worked together, so you're finished, completely finished." "Damn, why did you do this? There is no reason in the purgatory world, you can die now." Great phantom technique. Meiji turned into countless shadows, instantly escaping Zoro's seal and smoothly escaping from Zoro's blade. The others reacted at this time. The Darkness City Rock Demon gave an angry roar and raised a pair of large fists to smash forward. The Rock Demon wasn't weak, so Zoro didn't want to take it head-on, so he dodged with absolute speed. At the same time, he didn't forget to send the Rock Demon back a few steps. But the Rock Demon's defense was very high, so it wasn't heavily injured. Shadow released his Bowsor's spirit and shot out an arrow. Without a sound, it hit Zoro's chest and turned into an illusion. It was clear he used a secret technique to dodge. When the Darkness City army saw this, they all pulled out their weapons and prepared to break out. The flame demon Kildan broke out in laughter. You want to resist with just this bit of people? Kill! Flame Demon City's flame demons, Dark Shadow City's shadow demons, and the various dark races and demons of the other cities all charged forward, instantly surrounding Darkness City. Meiji escaped less than 100 meters before she was forced to reveal herself. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Her chest had been completely pierced through, and the heart was also a vital point for demons. It's useless. You're dead after this strike. Shadow Demon Zoro wasn't any weaker than Meiji, not to mention that he had launched a sneak attack with cursed death energy, stabbing Meiji's vitals. This was also why he wasn't in a hurry to chase after Meiji. True enough. Meiji panted heavily. He looked so weak that he didn't even have the strength to run away. The Darkness City soldiers were becoming weaker and weaker, facing the attacks of several cities, even showing signs of being routed. Those who surrender won't be killed. Kildan shouted, otherwise you will be buried with them. Meiji revealed an anxious and angry look. Ripples appeared in her eyes and a powerful spiritual energy surrounded Zoro. Zoro never thought that Meiji would still have the strength to resist. When the spiritual energy covered him, he immediately lost all feeling in his body. Humph, stubborn resistance, there's no meaning. The flame demon Kildan punched out and the terrifying energy turned into a fire dragon. Darkness City's rock demon saw this and blocked in front of Meiji, using the rock demon's strong defense to resist the flame demon's terrifying destructive might. Hong! Berserk energy was released. A large hole was formed in the rock demon's rock body. Meiji was also shaken by the shock wave, and in her weakened state, her spiritual attack was immediately interrupted. The shadow demon Zoro instantly disappeared when he regained his freedom. Darkness City's other expert, the old dark elf, saw this and released an eye-shaped source spirit. His eye source spirit had the ability to break stealth, so it could restrain Zoro's abilities. What no one would have thought was that Zoro appeared right in front of this dark elf. The jet black blade flew out at an unbelievable speed, cutting off the old elf's head with a single slash. No! Shadow shot out an arrow with an angry roar, but it couldn't hit Zoro at all. On the other side, the rock demon fought with Kildan for a few rounds. Kildan's cultivation was in the 9th true spirit layer, and in terms of pure cultivation, he was even a bit stronger than Meiji. Moreover, his cultivation technique was very strong, and under several fierce attacks, the rock demon's body directly exploded. It was a mess. It was a complete mess. The Flame Demon City and Dark Shadow City's experts led the charge. Shadow was heavily injured by the other side's experts, and Meiji was already on the verge of death. The other two experts didn't even manage to block a few attacks before they were killed. The morale of the Darkness City elites fell to a very low point. They all knew that there was no chance to turn the situation around. If they kept fighting like this, they would only die, so they all had thoughts of giving up resisting. Chu Tian had the weakest cultivation and was an outsider, so he wasn't taken care of by the city lords. However, the ones attacking him were the spirit transformation experts of the various cities. Chu Tian's battle strength wasn't bad, he had confidence in one-on-one. Now that he was surrounded by several people, he felt a bit strained. He never thought this kind of thing would happen. They started fighting for no reason. The purgatory world was truly a place he couldn't understand. So, an afterimage flashed by. A dark shadow city's shadow demon launched a sneak attack. This was a very strong secret technique of the shadow demon race. The shadow demon's concealment technique was very strong, it could almost hide from divine sense. Of course, with Chu Tian's vision domain divine sense, when the other side was close enough, he could still see their movements. A green blade glow suddenly erupted, heading straight for his vitals. Chu Tian quickly dodged and the blade glow slashed across his chest, almost breaking Chu Tian's starlight immortal body. Chu Tian was enraged. These bastards! You even want to kill father? The shadow demon expert sent a second attack after the first one missed. Chu Tian's eyes had already turned into deep black holes. The shadow demon's strong attack landed on his body. This attack that could even pierce through a spirit transformation cultivator's defensive cultivation technique had no effect on Chu Tian at all. First, in the moment of contact, most of the energy was absorbed by Chu Tian's body and the rest was easily dispersed by a layer of starlight. What? The shadow demon never thought it would be like this. When he reacted, Chu Tian was already holding a demon god's sword and his body was covered in a powerful destructive energy. This attack isn't even enough to tickle me. I'll let you see what a true attack is. Chu Tian's fierce slash cut the other side in half and the corpse flew 100 meters away. Scram. This foreign race was actually this strong. The others looked at Chu Tian in a new light. Kil'dan, Zoro, and the other city lords also noticed this. Chu Tian took advantage of everyone being stunned. His eyes turned white and his hands released spatial fluctuations, grabbing at Meiji and Shadow. Spatial energy covered them and the two of them were directly pulled in front of Chu Tian. Innate spatial energy. Such a powerful control ability. Chu Tian's eyes turned green again and his spirit energy turned into life energy that entered the two of them. Shadow's injuries were instantly healed and most of Meiji's broken heart was repaired, instantly freeing her from the danger. Innate life energy. Such a strong healing power. The dark spirit beast was closer to Chu Tian and his reaction was very fast. He instantly erupted with a shocking speed as he charged at Chu Tian. Scram! Chu Tian's eyes opened wide and his body was covered in flames, forming a giant shield. The dark spirit beast slammed into the flames and suddenly gave a pitiful cry, falling into the canyon. His body was covered in blue and white flames and even with his high cultivation base, it was hard for him to resist this strange flame. Chu Tian forcefully blew out and spat out a large amount of flames. The dark giant city lord quickly shouted, "Don't touch the flames." Chu Tian's spirit energy was almost used up. Not to mention bringing two people, it was impossible for him to escape the tightly guarded canyon alone. So Chu Tian didn't choose to run away. Rather he brought the two of them and used the last of his spirit energy to teleport into the Devil's Gate. Don't let him escape. When everyone recovered from their shock, they were about to attack at the same time. In the end, Chu Tian stepped in first and disappeared without a trace. What happened? The flame demon Kil'dan almost exploded with rage. Where did that brat come from? Don't worry, there are only 3 of them left. They escaped into the Devil's Gate and there won't be any other way out. With our army stationed here, they won't be able to escape. The shadow demon Zoro wasn't anxious at all. Darkness City has already been surrounded, it can't be avoided. That's right. What kind of waves could these people raise? Kil'dan didn't want to let them go. Do you think it's that easy for them to escape? His cultivation base isn't high and his series of actions just now might have used up all his strength. Those 2 fellows from Darkness City are heavily injured, so we'll immediately go in and eliminate them. All right. The others nodded. The dark spirit beast that was burnt black in a somewhat sorry state also stood up. Chu Tian's flames were hard for mortals to resist, but this dark spirit beast wasn't burned to death by the netherworld ghost flames and only suffered heavy injuries. It could be seen from this point that it wasn't simple, it was worthy of being a city lord level mission. Kil'dan, Zoro, the Dark Giant, and the Dark Leader, they all led several spirit transformation experts. With this many people chasing a trivial Chu Tian, could they still fail? This was almost impossible. They had to explore the Devil's Gate in the end. If they could use this chance to eliminate the fish that escaped the net, why not? Kil'dan led the experts into the Devil's Gate and the other troops were stationed in the Devil's Gate Canyon. As long as Chu Tian appeared, they would immediately surround him. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.